violated my own rule with you. When people say, hey, we should do a podcast, I interpret that as them inviting themselves on the podcast. And that's the first way that you don't get invited on the podcast. But as soon as you said you were a medic from the regiment, I was like, okay, there's some interesting shit to talk about. Because the medic path into the 75th is a lot different than like the 11 Bravos, what most of us did.
Right.
And I think it'd be cool to let people hear that kind of that path and the schools you had to go to and then what that looked like and everything. So before we get into that though, I'd just like to give my guests just an opportunity to introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, all that fancy shit. And then we just take it from there, man.
Yeah. So my name's James Merrick. I'm currently a firefighter paramedic in Central Oregon. I've been doing that for the last 10 years. I actually grew up outside of Portland, in Beaverton, small town. Suburbs.
I've been to Beaverton.
Okay. Yeah. So it's suburb. Grew up typical American youth, growing up in the suburbs. Parents got split when I was young, which I consider is kind of a normal American family at this point.
It's the majority, right?
Yeah. But I had two good parents that gave me a good shot at stuff. And I wouldn't say that I was like one of those dudes that was like, I'm going to be a warrior. There's nothing in me as a kid other than playing with guns and toys and stuff, which by the way, back in the day, you could actually spray paint it orange, or spray paint it black, take the orange tip off.
Yeah.
We were doing that. Of course, nowadays you can't do that, but other than the typical boy stuff, there was nothing, I guess people would say it was kind of surprised that I went in the military.
Yeah. Bro, I tell people the same thing. Like I didn't have this lifelong aspiration of serving my country. I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do when I was 18 years old. So I was like, well, this seems like a good route.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, since I wanted to go in the military, I might as well do something fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I went into the regiment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I knew if I was going in the military, I was going to do that. So, I wanted to be a firefighter, specifically a firefighter paramedic since I was a little kid.
Okay.
Probably as young as my youngest, 3 years old.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a pedamedic. I couldn't even say it, but my brother and I.
Is that a play on that on words for the mustache that you're rocking?
Oh yeah. Oh, this is because I work on a truck.
Yeah.
I work on a truck company, so it's actually required. But
yeah.
So my brother, I have a brother who's 6 years older than me. He's a firefighter in the Portland area.
Okay.
And we used to watch the show Emergency growing up. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's about LA County fire.
No.
It's actually pretty legit. So it's.
So how old are you?
I'm 36. I'll be 37 this year. So a little younger than you.
A little younger, but still about the same.
Yeah.
Same generation.
Yeah. So it's actually a show from the 60s and 70s, but it's about the first paramedics in LA County.
Okay.
And it's the two guys, Johnny and Roy, for any of the firefighter medic geeks out there that know what I'm talking about. They went through paramedic school as part of their like training for the cast. So they made it all super realistic. They go, and it was them responding in their little squad paramedic grade. Cause I was new back then. The paramedics are, they only came about in the 60s. Before that, it was like, you'd get like maybe some cops showing up in a Cadillac ambulance. They'll throw you in the back and drive you to a doctor. So this is the first time they were like, hey, why don't we bring the doctor skills out to the field? And what better way than, we already got fire stations posted here in the city. They can respond to these type of emergencies. Why don't we have them, be paramedics?
So that was only in the 60s when they made that transition, huh?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So there were, fledgling of programs starting before then, but that was the first, like, okay, LA County's going to be a paramedic department.
Got it.
So they'd take their firefighters that were interested and send them through. They didn't really even have EMTs. It was just basic first aid. So, they could bandage stuff up, but they certainly weren't,
put a pressure dressing on and
maybe not even that, maybe they just raise the arm up,
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I would, watching that kind of shows or Rescue 911. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
I have heard of that one.
Okay, with William Shatner. It's still on. It's still on. If you have like any smart TV that's got the free, the free channels once you look at the internet.
We got that.
There's a whole channel for cops. It's the only place that cops is still on, by the way, that I think, since they ripped it off. And then Rescue 911's got its own channel.
All right.
So anyways, I wanted to do this since I was a little kid.
So then when you decided to go in the military, it was with the specific idea that when you get out, that's the path you're going to take.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. For me,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so for me, I was like, all right, I'm going to do my 4 years. And honestly, I hadn't, I hate to say it, but post 9/11 is the reason why I ended up joining. I mean, I definitely had a passion for medicine. I was going to be a medic. And then, 9/11 happened and I was like, there's something deep inside me that was saying, you need to go participate in this.
So what would you have been? 16, 17?
I was a junior in high school. So yeah, exactly.
I just nailed it.
You did just nail it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I remember waking up to my alarm and hearing, plane into the Twin Towers. And and I immediately just think, oh, Cessna. Like that's, of course.
Yep.
Like probably most people. And then, get out of bed and go see what was going on. And, so after that, I kind of was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? I was a very mediocre kid in high school. Like, I was definitely smart enough to do the work, but I wasn't going to try any harder than I needed to.
I think that's actually very common with Rangers. And it's like they need a reason to apply themselves. And if they don't have a good reason, well, then it's very easy to find yourself fucking off.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing. And the guest I had on yesterday, Paul Gardner, he told me the same story too as a Marine. So I just think it's something about how we're wired,
Yeah. So the first time I actually was going to join the military was actually more of a threat toward my parents, my dad. So we had a party, high school party. My dad went out of town conveniently for right around graduation time. And we had this big blowout party at his house. And I mean, to the point where, I don't know if you ever had a party where you're cleaning up afterwards, like, all right, I got 8 hours till they get home. I'm going to get the carpets shampooed. I'm going to hire someone to do that. I'm going to do this right.
I had one party like that. It was my 18th birthday.
Yeah.
And my mom said, I'm going to leave for the night and let you have your friends over because you're turning into an adult and I believe you're responsible enough. And I was like, watch this. I'm going to show you how irresponsible I am. And I told the whole school, and we probably had like 250 people there.
That's how it always turns out. You're like, no, it's just supposed to be my friends. Yeah. So, we're looking at, we didn't get the carpets clean. We didn't do any of that stuff. We're freaking out as me and my best friend, just looking around like, there's no way we're getting away with this. This is, let's go join the Marines. We literally dropped the cleaning stuff, left it as is. Obviously there was a party here and we went and because my dad was getting home soon. We knew that the first phone call would be to his dad. So we were at the recruiter's office, like,
get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah. We're like, okay. We'll be Marine reservists. Cause we knew there was a Marine Reserve unit out of Portland. And we're like, all right, then there's no way they can be mad at us, right? They'll want to talk us out of going into the military. Cause I knew that my dad didn't want me to go in the military. And so, sure enough, the phone call comes. Come on home, we'll talk about this, and it worked. I mean, I don't know how much trouble I would have been in anyways, but yeah, for sure. So that didn't happen. And then fast forward, I said, a couple months later, I said, okay, on a serious note, I really do want to go in the military, and talked to my dad. And my dad's kind of grew up in the hippie generation. I love him. Just to shout out to my dad. I love you. I know you're listening to this, but he's got kind of the hippie mentality. And so he's anti-war at all costs kind of thing. And hey, I totally respect that. Yeah. But he didn't want, and I get it, I'm his son. He didn't want me going into combat, And so he's like, yeah, why don't you do a year of college and then see how you feel about it. And so I just said, okay, all right. So this was in 2003 when I graduated. And at that point, I had kind of an idea that I wanted to be a Ranger. I kind of had that feeling since I watched Black Hawk Down.
Okay.
And, I'm thinking like the scene with like Corporal Smith and he's got the medic, working on with that real high femoral injury. Yeah. And I'm like watching that, like, I want to do that. And, so I still had that kind of inkling, but anyways, I do this year of college and I started doing my like prerequisites for paramedic. Cause you got it in Oregon, you have to have a 2-year degree to be a paramedic. Okay. And, so it's an associate's. And so I started knocking out prereqs for that. And literally a year later, and he also, one of the other things, hey, why don't you move out? So me and my buddy got an apartment together, and I did my year of doing that. And meanwhile, the war's still going on, and I'm like, nope, still in there, still want to do it. So I go back. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And he's like, not that I needed his blessing, but he's like, all right, let's just let me know what you're doing. And so I go down to the recruiter, good old Sergeant Potts, who could have sold a ketchup popsicle to a woman wearing white gloves, kind of guy.
I haven't heard that one before.
And he was a good recruiter, but so, did the ASVAB and all that. And I knew exactly what I wanted going in. So I was like, I want to be a Ranger Medic. And he's like, well, like the typical, well, there's a good chance once you go, you volunteer for, so even if we can't get you that, that whole thing, I'm like, no, I'm not going to sign anything unless I have an option 40 contract.
And for everybody listening, because I get a lot of emails from younger guys that are interested in the military and ask my advice or what I'd recommend. That is the only way you join the military. You tell the recruiter what you want. And when they tell you, well, I don't think that's available right now, you say, here's my phone number. Call me when it is. Now, obviously, like you said, you have some certain prerequisites for certain MOSs. You have to have certain ASVAB score, all that kind of stuff. But if you're qualified for the job that you want to do and you meet the ASVAB scores, and then the option 40s weren't requiring a PT test, were they?
No.
Okay. I know a SEAL contract requires a PT test. And so sometimes you have to meet certain prerequisites. But if you meet those and they're still not giving you what you want, call me when it's available.
Yeah, don't sign.
And your phone will ring eventually.
Unless you're cool with going to the 82nd. That's fine.
Yeah. And bro, that was almost me.
Yeah.
And I have nothing bad to say about the 82nd, but that isn't the path that I wanted to go.
Right.
And my recruiter told me, I got you an airborne infantry contract. And when you get to airborne school, you can talk to the regiment and get a slot into RIP. And I believed him, right? And it happened to work out like that. And in airborne school, I was able to get my RIP spot. But that's needs of the regiment. And there's an ebb and flow to that. And sometimes that's open and sometimes that's not.
Yeah, I bet right now it's not as open as it was when I was going through in 05.
And so I was like, I fucking lucked out. But you can't have your career riding on luck. You got to have that shit fucking iron tight,
right?
You know?
Yeah. So I got it in contract and I was all ready to go. And it's so, still thinking about it now, it's still that surreal feeling of once you sign it, and it's like, oh, this is real. Like, you're going to MEPS and then the next thing you know, like, oh, you got your plane ticket. It's like, this is really happening.
So between you swearing in and shipping out, how long did you have?
Not long, because I didn't do delayed entry.
Yeah, that's what
I was 19. I was ready to go. I had nothing going on.
That might be better.
Week.
Okay. That's probably better.
Yeah.
Instead of having to think about it for the next 8 months.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. Because even just that week, I was like, no, you did it. Like, you're about to go be a fucking Army Ranger.
So where'd you go? Jackson?
No, I went to Benning.
Oh, you did go to Benning?
I ended up going to Benning.
Okay.
Which I'm thankful for.
Actually, that's right. Benning has a lot of different MOSs now.
Yeah, they have at the time they had a whole battalion that was soft skilled MOSs.
Okay. When I went through, it was only infantry.
Right.
And then they added armor. And then now obviously they've added a little bit everything.
Yeah. So, and of course, all the soft skilled MOSs going to Benning. I'm like, that's right. Going to Benning. You're going to Jackson. What? Fort Lost in the Woods?
Was it co-ed in Benning or was
it? Not mine.
Not yours?
They do have them. I don't know if they had them at Benning at the time, but mine was not co-ed.
Okay.
And yeah, so shipped out and, went through basic, no big problem or anything. Did end up getting sick, like super sick. We were doing like range qual or something. We were out in the middle of the woods, sleeping overnight. And I was like, I don't want to get up and talk to the drill sergeant, but I was so sick. Like I was like shaking uncontrollably.
Yeah.
And I was like, reluctantly just kind of went over and it's like, private, you better be sick, kind of thing, which is not the last
Watch
time
this, drill sergeant.
Yeah. Yeah. So they shipped me out to the aid station. I had like a temp like 105 or something. They put me in an ambulance, took me to the whatever, where the base hospital was out for a couple of days. I ended up going back and qualifying. But other than that, it was normal basic.
Come to find out, 16 years later, it was COVID.
Yeah, right. I've got the antibodies now.
Yeah. And so right after basic, you just go right into the regimental pipeline then, right?
Yeah, went right to airborne after that.
Okay. Man, airborne school was like a fucking vacation.
Yeah.
Remember? Because for the guys that are in the pipeline like we were, you go right from boot camp right to airborne school. So now it's like you're off at 5 p.m. You have weekends free.
Yeah, it was weird.
It's like party time. Whereas like a lot of the other people that got like airborne school as a re-enlistment incentive, it was like kicking the shit out of them.
Yeah. And I take that back. Actually, I didn't go right to airborne school. I had to go to my MOS first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I had to go from Benning. I went to Sam Houston.
Got it.
In Texas. So that's
how long is that?
4 months.
Okay.
I think I did I came in, I was an EMT. So remember I did that year of college.
Yeah.
So I got my EMT basic. So
the Army let you bypass some stuff?
Yeah. Just
because you already had that?
It was a month. It was about 3 weeks. but
that's actually surprising to me. I could see the Army being like, we don't care what your qualifications are.
Yeah, they came out and said, hey, is anybody, because there was people that going through like reservists who are paramedics already, like their civilian job was paramedic, and they're going through to be, and they're like, we don't need to teach you all this basic stuff.
Yeah.
So those guys could skip ahead. And so, yeah, so I actually got moved into a different company and went through that, which was fairly basic. It was still a fun school. I mean, I loved every military school I went to, but it wasn't the most exciting. It was very basic medic stuff, because there's people going through there that are going to either be hospital medics or combat medics or field medics or whatever you want to call it. At the time it was 68 whiskey, but then they had different variations of that, or there's I can't remember exactly. But anyway, so there's different paths. So it was like I said, pretty basic stuff. Went through that. There was a couple guys in there that were in the pipeline with me. In fact, one of them ended up going to RIP with me.
It was still RIP then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was 05. But I remember there was this guy that would come in. He was tab ranger. I don't think he had a combat scroll. I don't even know if he was in battalion, but he had a tab. And at the time it's just like, oh, ranger, cool. Like,
God.
This guy would come by and tell us stories and talk to us and talk about Ranger School, and we'd all be gathered around, just story time. And so we were all fired up, and we had a group of us that were, some going to airborne school, and then a smaller group that were going on to RIP after that. So yeah, then we go to airborne school after that, qualified medics. Some guys went off and, went to their units, leg units. Right? I'm not supposed to say that.
Is there still mechanized infantry?
I guess so, yeah.
Are they 11 mics?
But you have
they
to
still
say
called
it,
that?
Yeah. How do you say, like, I'm going to 3rd ID mechanized? Like, you have to say it like that. Sound all badass.
Dirty, nasty legs.
Exactly.
And then once you get to regiment, everybody's a leg. Mm-hmm. Even the 82nd.
Yep. Exactly.
It's so ridiculous.
So, yeah, then I went to RIP when it was still RIP.
Okay. And when did it change to RASP? Do you know?
It was a couple of years after I went through.
Okay.
I know it wasn't until I got to, because I didn't get to battalion until 06, because my pipeline was 2 years from basic to being a qualified Ranger Medic.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still RIP at that time in 06. So, but it wasn't long after that, because I remember they were talking about, oh yeah, we're going to make it more. They weren't saying gentleman's course at the time, but they were saying we're going to make it more, to kind of make more sense, be more practical, so that these guys are going to regiment more well trained, ready to go, as opposed to you sucked it up, you survived the mental games and all, which is awesome, and I hope that's still there. But.
Well, so yeah, how it was described to me by some of my buddies that are still in is that the first 3 weeks of RASP is basically RIP, just kicking the shit out of you.
Good.
And yeah, exactly. Good, right? You need that.
Yeah.
And then the next 5 are like TTPs and SOPs and room clearing and explosive breaching. That way, if you show up in a rotation where you're deploying 2 weeks after you get to regiment as a new private, you at least know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Because that's what was happening. Like when I went through, it was peacetime military. And so I went through RIP in 2000, and there was no fucking deployments going on. There was no hope of deployments happening. Like, all of our training was about drug lords, the FARC in Colombia, And so it just got to the point where, like, dude, are we ever going to do anything?
Yeah.
And dude, I was only there a year before that happened. So the mentality just wasn't the same. But once after 9/11 and everybody started deploying and the op tempo just went crazy, like, our new privates need to be ready to deploy the minute they get here.
Right. Well, I knew going in that we were doing 3-month rotations.
Yeah.
3.5 month rotations.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I heard that, but literally that got me through Cole Range. Like, I was out there, for the whatever 50th time going to get a stick or something.
What time of year were you at Cole Range?
Late spring, early summer.
Okay.
So I think we graduated in June of 05.
Got it.
But yeah, it was, pissing down the side of your leg while you're running out there. And I'm just thinking to myself, and I knew that other units were doing 1.5-year deployments. They were doing full 18-month deployments at the time. And that was literally what got me through. It actually went through my head. You could just fall down right now, pretend to be unconscious.
Yeah.
just get out of this. And then
your brain has a weird way of, like, playing games and justifying itself. Like, just quit.
Oh yeah. It's loud.
You should quit.
Right.
These are the reasons you should quit,
Yep.
I think I was too young. I was 18 when I was in RIP, and I was just like, there's no fuck, I'll fucking die out here, you know? Did they still do the log drill where when I went through, they had each squad. So we had a platoon size element out there. Each squad had to grab a log out on Coal Range. And I went through in February and it was fucking like cold and raining. It was like fucking monsoon rains. And the cadre had a big fire going and they were grilling hot dogs and s'mores and shit. And they're like, put the logs overhead, Rangers. You fucking hold those logs over your head until 2 people quit. They say it can be 3 minutes, it can be 3 hours, it can be 3 days. This drill does not conclude until 2 people quit. And I was like, what the fuck? What a mind fuck, right?
Oh, yeah.
But dude, eventually people did. And they're also saying, they're like, Ranger, I know you guys are cold and hungry. I know there's some of you guys in this formation right now that know being a Ranger is not for you. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. And if you're that person, come and have dinner with us. We'll grill up some hot food, get a warm cup of coffee in you, like talking you, you know, like into quitting. Yeah. But that's exactly right. If they can talk you into quitting, then you shouldn't be at the regiment.
Right.
You know,
they weren't lying at all.
No.
They had pizza for us. We didn't have logs. It was just a bunch of PT.
Okay.
And forced hydration and stuff. But yeah, they were on that loudspeaker all night saying, we got pizza in here. We got cold drinks. You can even have a beer. I don't care. And and they would do that. They would say, we need 2 guys to quit. And they did this throughout RIP. They would just be, you know, the first week they had that just literally out on wherever that grassy area where you know, they roll and do combatives and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Just, you know, sucking it up. And sure enough, there would be 2 guys. And I'm like, I'm not going to be those. That's not me. The closest I got, like I said, was that you could just pass out at Coal Range. But other than that, it was like, no, it's not going to be me.
It's strange to me that, and like I just said, there's a part of your brain that's like, you could quit, right? I think everybody has that voice, but it's the difference between having that voice or listening to that voice.
Right.
Because it was always baffling to me when people quit. Because what the fuck did you think was going to happen at selection?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going to get the shit smoked out of you. You're going to be PTing. You're not going to get much sleep. People are going to be fucking screaming at you. And one of my buddies, you know how as you're going through the pipeline, different things happen and like you start to get spread out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my physical expired, so I had to be a holdover for a week and do a physical down at Benning. And so some of my friends got into the RIP class ahead of me that I went through basic with. And both of them quit. And they're like, Greg, whatever you're expecting, it's way worse. It's the worst fucking thing you can imagine. Like, and dude, you know how close you get with guys through you go through boot camp, and then for infantry guys, then you go through your MOS school together. So it's the same people. Yeah. You're together 6 months or whatever, but you're with them 24/7.
Right.
So by the end of that, some of those guys are like best friend status. And these were 2 of my close buddies, and they both quit. And I'm just like, now I started to wonder, I was like, dude, what the fuck are they doing to you? Where those 2 guys quit? And then when I went through, I was like, wait, what? There's nothing that they did ever approached the point where I thought I need to actually quit. Right. Like it fucking sucked. And like I said, that voice is going off like, fuck this. But I would fucking die, dude.
It's just lactic acid.
Yeah, it's just lactic acid.
It is.
And you know what else? It's lactic acid, and it's a lifetime of shame and regret.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm not kidding. I quit wrestling my freshman year in high school, and I wrestled through middle school. And then when I was a freshman, I found beer and girls and was like, fuck athletics, dude. And like before that, I like to like run track and do some different sports. To this day, it haunts me that I quit high school sports.
Wow.
Just because it's like, dude, you remember when you got to Regiment, the dudes that were really good athletes, the dudes that fucking ran track and played football and played soccer, they had a little bit of a leg up on the guys that fucked off through high school.
Yeah, I was the guy that fucked up.
I was too.
Sure.
And I saw that firsthand. My roommate, Toby Folk, he's actually been on the show a couple of times. He was a fucking stellar athlete. And that's because he took it serious his whole life. So when he got into the regiment, it's like, dude, it's more of the same. And for the guys that fucked off, we paid for it.
Yeah.
You know, like I wasn't having conversations with the guys in my squad when we were on our morning 5-mile runs. Where
You were sucking air.
sucking wind, right? Well, like I remember Folk and we had another guy, one of the team leaders named Arredondo, and both their 2-mile times were like low 11s, those kind of guys.
Yeah.
And dude, they'd just be talking about their weekend for the whole run. And I'm just like, fuck.
Dude, I was never a runner. When I went, so you gotta do the PT test to get out of the rip hold. I was gonna say, the other people that talk the most shit are the people that are in rip hold.
Bro, that's so funny you've said that, because I don't think that I've ever like verbalized this and talked about this before. But when my physical expired, it was actually day 1 of rip, and they said, if I call your name, fall out into the rear of the formation. And I'm Anderson, so I'm the first one, right? Anderson. They go through like 6 guys, and we're all like, you're it's day 1 of rip, and you got called out first. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And they're like, all of you are medical failures. Fucking go back up to your barracks, blah, blah, blah. A cadre member will meet you at this time to discuss your options. And they even use that as a try and make me quit thing. They're like, Ranger, your physical is expired. You cannot continue this course. Like, you can go needs of the Army right now. You don't have to deal with this headache. You don't have to get a new physical. You don't have to go through 3 weeks being a holdover here. I'm like, well, what's option number 2, Sergeant? It's like, well, you can go do this and do that and get everything squared away, and then you can recycle, start in the next class. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And so that only took 2 days to get my physical done. And then for the next fucking 3 weeks, it's getting your balls smoked off, area beautification. We were like painting. They're just using us to do a bunch of fucking bitch work.
Well, the physical itself, you got to go to like 16 different buildings, right? You got to go to dental. You got to go everywhere, and you have no idea where anything is. And it's not, they couldn't be central. Why would they have everything?
No, of course
not. That's the physical building right there.
The Army is a fucking, dude, I swear they make everything 10 times more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But so that's why my buddies got ahead of me, and I got to hear their horror stories, because you still had, I'm trying to remember.
You're talking about the guys that quit?
Guys that quit that were a class ahead of me. Right. That's why they got to go ahead and I got held back. And then when I went through, I was like, dude, this is actually exactly what I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was like, dude, are they torturing them out in the woods or something? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Kind of, but it's normal, right? So the rip hold thing, I was going to say, so there's like the guys that are living there. I don't know how that happens, get stuck in some cycle and they're there for months, but then, so they're not like scared anymore. Cause I don't know about you, but I was terrible. That was the scariest part of rip was rip hold. Cause you didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
They just had random formations, different times. There'd be guys walking through the quad that had the silkies on. And you're like, you got to stand up. What did you have to do when they came in? Like, you just come to attention or something for any ranger, right? Because if you're not a ranger yet, if you're in RIP or any school, like it could be a ranger private that walks through there. And so I just remember not knowing. And then, in RIP hold, I ended up barely coming out of RIP hold. I cracked a couple of ribs in airborne school. So
you didn't PLF properly?
Apparently not.
And that stands for parachute landing fall. And for anybody that's ever PLF'd, you know that it's absolute bullshit. There's no such thing as a PLF.
No.
You just smash into the earth.
Right. I heard you were talking with Colonel Chung about that.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that, and I could totally relate.
I hated jumping.
Oh, me too, except for at SOCM, and I'll tell you, we talk about the Special Operations Medic School.
Yeah.
We jumped out of CASA 212s.
Okay.
Just ramp blasts, just nice weather, super low speed, just nice little, and they were all awesome. But yeah, so this in school though, one of my jumps, I must have been with combat equipment, something on the side, just smashed into my rib cage. I didn't think anything of it, kind of went through, finished airborne school. And so this is in a matter of like a week and a half. It was like, final jump. And then we went, did the old jog to RIP, which they are still doing. Which
you mean the dead sprint?
Yeah, right.
To RIP?
The guy shows up and you're like, well, I have to run with that guy?
Bro. So I heard years later, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they specifically send like one of the fastest guys in regiment to pick up the RIP class.
I hope they still do it.
So everybody falls out.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. They're sending some fucker that runs a 9:32 mile. He's going to fucking make everybody fall out.
Yeah.
So 3 minutes into trying to be a Ranger, you feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah. I remember it not being...
That makes me happy to hear that they did that.
I remember it not being too terrible, and coming out of airborne school, it was like, whatever, we were running all the time. But so we get there and like, it seemed like it happened real quick, and I all of a sudden started noticing like, oh man, my side hurts, because we were doing some PT, and I was like, man, sit-ups aren't feeling that great. Yeah. And you know, when I take a deep breath, it sucked. I'm like, oh man, this is not good. I'm in that position again. Like, I don't want to have to be that guy and go ask for medical attention, you know? But sure enough, I end up, because it was like the next day we were doing that, or no, it was the morning of the PT test. And I got out of bed, tried to do a couple sit-ups. I'm like, there's no way I could do whatever it is, 60 something, 70 sit-ups. And I was reluctantly went up to hey, Sergeant, I think I have some broken ribs. And it's like, you better fucking hope you have broken ribs, or you're not going to be a fucking Ranger.
Yeah.
Go to the aid station now. He's like, if you don't come back with broken ribs,
you're fucking out of here.
I was like, fuck, did I just gamble? Like, should I have just done it?
You're like, dude, kick me right in the ribs, someone.
So I go down. Sure enough, I have two cracked ribs.
Like, that's the only time in the history of planet Earth that you're like happy.
So happy to have broken bones.
Yes, they're broken. Thank God.
So proudly go back and I hand that to him. It's like, all right, you got a week. And I think they even said like, rest up for 3 weeks.
Bro, that's the most Ranger thing I've ever heard. Oh, confirmed broken ribs. You got 1 week. And it's some staff sergeant that knows nothing about medicine.
Right.
He's like, you know what? Fuck it. You got a week.
And I'm just so grateful. I'm just like, oh my God, first of all, thank you. Thank God they were broken.
I don't remember going through with any other MOSs other than 11 Bravo. Is there any difference in the course?
No, as far as RIP?
Yeah.
No, they didn't even know I was a medic. I mean,
got it. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so the week goes by and I'm still not feeling 100%, but here we go.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest things that ever happened to me was, I don't even remember. I wish I could remember who the cadre was that was doing my PT test, but he somehow knew exactly what was up with me. And so we come to go to the sit-ups and he's like, I'm going to count you down. From whatever the minimum is you needed. He goes, you don't need to exert yourself.
Good, man.
And I was like, I still can't believe that. Like,
yeah,
that
are you fucking with me?
Yeah.
Or, well, and that's the one thing that, like, it doesn't matter if it's fucking Ranger Indoc or your drill sergeant or if it's a fucking Buds cadre. It's a show they're putting on, right? At the end of the day, when they're sitting around the table with each other, they're fucking joking about all the shit that's happening. Right. And so they know who the good guys are and they know who the shitbags are.
Right.
So, and they've also done their homework on people. So if they already know, like, okay, fucking, he's squared away.
Right.
All right. Well, let's ride him kind of hard, but we're going to fucking also help him out.
Yeah. Maybe this happened. He's like, hey, I told this dude he's got 1 week to get his broken ribs in order. but seriously, they'll keep an eye on him. You know, like that's how it was. It wasn't, just all. But
do you remember your RIP cadres names? Because that was only, it was 5 years, but that might have been my generation of. Was Bohannon there?
Bohannon wasn't, but he was my first platoon sergeant.
Okay. Because he did a stint, or no, he was a pre-ranger for a while, I think.
I think he was.
So him and I were privates together. You probably heard that.
I did
on the podcast before.
I love Bohannon. I wish I could remember who they were, because I wanted to remember this one big bald dude who he was the guy that would tackle people into the woods on the forced road march. So like this. Well, and this is the other thing that I heard changed. When they were first going to RASP, they're like, oh, it's the road marches. You can jog it out or whatever. I'm like, what?
No, we had to walk it.
Well, yeah, we did. But I guess what I'd heard, and maybe someone will call me out on this, but I had heard that they changed it to just time. Because, it was the whole put your arm on the guy in front of you. And like, there's a dude in front of me that was struggling, get the accordion effect. And I'm like, come on, man. Yeah. And they're like, all right, Ranger, get up there. He couldn't do it. And he gets his other chance. And then all of a sudden, from my left, perfect spear tackles
like
this
fucking
guy.
Goldberg.
He's gone. It's like 4 a.m. He's gone. I don't see him ever again. I'm sure he got on the bus, but he was gone. And that's what happened. Then you have to run up, catch up.
To this day, And was it 6 miles, this ruck that you're talking about?
This is the 12.
The 12 mile.
Yeah.
Okay. So I remember we did a 6 and a 12, and the 6 was a pace that was almost not sustainable.
Like where your hips are just on fire.
But they wouldn't, if you started jogging, stop fucking running, Ranger. You're fucking your buddies behind you.
Right.
You walk like everybody else, but you can only walk so fast.
Right.
It's like, speed walking is an Olympic sport, right?
Yeah.
Like
it is.
There's some fucking technique to it. And then obviously there's a high level of fitness that's required too, to walk at that speed. And as a brand new fucking private, trying I remember that 6 mile road march was the hardest thing in RIP for me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think like something like that, you fuck it up, you're gone.
Yeah.
I
just remember the only RIP cadre I do remember, McDowell was there actually.
That name sounds familiar, but there's probably
he
was he a second bad guy?
Yeah.
Oh, got killed. That's right. Yep. That's where I know that from.
Yep.
So then when you graduate RIP, you're not going to regiment. You're going to SOCM, or it's not called. Is it still called SOCM?
It's SOC. Oh gosh, again, I haven't looked it up recently or anything. But when I went through SOC, so Special Operations Combat Medic School.
Got it.
It's the first half of the 18 Delta course. Mm-hmm. So the second half being SOCM or something like that. It's more the medical. It's a medical sustainment course. So for like.
That's where you rotations in hospitals and stuff, right?
Yeah. So it's more like long-term care. So the first half is combat medic. The second half is like if you have to be on that dude for 2 weeks in the middle of nowhere kind of thing.
Got it. Which if that's happening, the whole world is fucked.
Right. Exactly. Even for SF dudes.
Yeah.
So right after RIP, we went to Regiment. We were assigned to Regiment, and it was actually I waited 3 or 4 months to go to SOCM for a slot. So there was maybe like a half a squad worth of medics there waiting to go.
What were you guys doing?
We were doing we would be medics for RIP and pre-ranger.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So any of the small regimental tasks stuff. So we'd go hang out in the van following people doing their run.
Putting the thermometers up people's asses.
Putting the thermometers in their butts.
Yeah.
And throwing IVs in when they fall out.
Bro, I remember that was a deterrent. They're like, if you come to us saying you're a heat casualty, you're getting your temperature checked anally.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck.
I'm like,
I don't.
There we go.
It's like, I don't want anything stuffed up my ass. So I don't care how bad it gets. I'm not saying shit. So it's 4 months at Regiment then, huh?
Yeah. Some guy, obviously if you could have good luck and you get right out of RIP and then there's a slot and you go at some point. But yeah, I think generally guys wait a few months. And there was guys that were waiting there long enough that they sent them to Ranger School.
Oh shit. Did you get to do that?
No, I didn't. I tabless.
Oh shit! Well, what are you doing here? What are you even like?
No, that's speaking of like you were talking about your wrestling thing. That's a huge regret. I would go back right now.
What? I guess we'll get there, but how did you? It's just like the op tempo and deployments and stuff. It just didn't line up. This is what I always tell everybody, because I had some buddies that ended up not getting their tab too, but they were fucking deploying to Afghanistan. Right. It's like, we got to live the real Ranger mission.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like doing what fucking Rangers are supposed to do. Fucking Ranger School is just a fucking Army leadership course.
Right.
And I'm glad I did it. And I fucking hated Ranger School when I was in it. I'm not one of those guys that's like, dude, it was fun. No, it wasn't fun. But looking back on it, I can appreciate that I did it. But what means a lot more than that school is my fucking deployments.
Yeah. For sure. The scroll sticker doesn't look as cool without the yellow tab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tattoos don't, it's
that's
just
right,
not the
dude. Same. So fuck you went right into, or you went to SOCM.
Yep. So after hanging out at Regiment for a little bit, which is actually pretty cool, getting some experience with doing the IVs and stuff. Plus, I was a member of Regiment. I got to wear the little shorts.
And then
that's what it's all about.
And then the new fucking people in RIP had to stand at parade rest for you.
100%. 100%. We all
probably got called sergeant all the time.
Oh yeah. Dude,
like,
we
I'm
wear
an E2.
And we'd be wearing our Ranger panties to the the mini mart. Go with our t-shirt. I'm in Regiment. No big deal.
Bro, that was one of the coolest fucking days of your life. When you go to Ranger Joe's and you buy all your Ranger shit. And it's like,
yeah.
I'm in the team. I'm in the club.
Right.
You know, fucking rad, dude. Especially being 18, 19, 20. Like, I talk about it all the time. People want to belong. That's why gangs exist.
Right.
You know, and we just found a gang. We found the gang of gangs that just happened to be socially acceptable to join.
Right. It's the same kind of people.
I was just going to say the same
It's the
thing.
same personality type.
Same personality. Young, wild motherfuckers that want to get after it.
Yep.
Bunch of like-minded people. This gang just happens to be blessed off on by the U.S. government.
Right. If they put a bunch of recruiting offices in the south side of Chicago, you think maybe we could clear up some of these?
Yeah, you might.
We're the same people.
Yeah, you might be able to.
We're the same
man.
types.
Well, dude, I joke about it often that when I was working in Los Angeles, a lot of the people that we had warrants for were like, it was gang-related stuff, conspiracy and RICO charges. And those dudes, when they're in the back of my car, taking them to jail, were some of the coolest fucking people. And I remember thinking like, dude, if you went left where I went right, we could be hanging out.
Right.
Like they just grew up in the hood slinging dope, pimping hoes because they've been doing that for generations. And I'm not saying that they should get a pass, but at the same time, I didn't grow up doing that.
Exactly.
So I had a better head start than they did.
Right. Different creed.
Yeah. But here we are, both, you know, young men.
Yeah.
And I used to tell my coworkers, I'm like, I like the dudes that we're going after more than you fuckers. You know?
I get it. Yeah.
And that's not far from the truth.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the things that make you a good gangster, right? Loyalty, integrity to your team, right? You can lie to anyone else, but don't lie to another gangster, right? Sounds similar. But you know, it's a lot of the same qualities and the same things that they appreciate. It's just they're using it for bad.
For sure, dude.
They're using it for good.
So when you went to SOCM, what was that process like?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of school. I mean, I think it's got to be at the one of the top as far as academic schools in the military.
Who's running that course?
So it's at the JFK Special Warfare Center. So it's run by the SF guys over there.
That's
there's
who
a
the cadre
Ranger
is.
liaison. There's a SEAL liaison because it's SEALs, unless and if I know that maybe one of these groups has their own
thing
school.
now.
The PJs have their own school already. So it was Marine Recon, or I guess Raiders now, which is, I think that's so badass. They changed it back to Raiders.
Yeah.
The special boat guys, and then the SEAL medics, and then Rangers. We also had civil affairs, and there was like a couple other random, and every once in a while they'd have like a foreign student or something coming. But yeah, so it's all branches, but it's run by the SF guys there. And I pretty sure, I could be wrong, but it's all under that umbrella of whatever the training center is there.
And you're doing the first half. If you're at 18 Delta, is that the only MOS that does that
continues
longer portion?
Yes, as far as they're part of their pipeline, yeah, they had opportunities, and there's some Rangers that go back through that. It's almost like an incentive kind of thing, like, hey, in between deployments, we'll send you to that school just to have more skills.
Yeah, that's actually cool.
They'd send us all kinds of stuff. They'd send us to I went to Atlanta to the hospital, the busy trauma center.
Oh, you worked like at ER for a while?
For a month, just, hey,
gunshot wounds all day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to do surgery, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, so that'd be like kind of an incentive thing. But yeah, everyone goes through the first, and it's 6 months. If you go straight through. Of course, just like any other difficult school, there's a lot of recycling, and a lot of that's academic. And because we did PT and stuff. It was kind of on your own. We did some group stuff. But
was it just basic Army standards for your PT?
pretty much, yeah. The guys were doing their own thing. You know, there was guys, all age groups in there. And so guys would, go to the gym or do whatever, the guys were on it. But yeah, it was just like being in college, I guess. It was, anywhere from a short 8-hour day to a 12-hour day, some weekends on top of that. But it was I think it's the coolest school I've ever been to. I mean, it was, because that's what I wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to be a paramedic. So now it's like, cool, I get to learn how to be a Ranger. Now I get to do like what my dream job is. And
does the SOCM qualification carry over in any type of paramedic?
It does.
Okay.
Although I had to kind of finagle my way through it, because when I went, it used to be straight away, you got your paramedic certification as part of the course. At some point they realized, and this is coming from the guys This is our assertion of what the
This
reasoning
isn't
is.
official
This
military
isn't official.
doctrine.
Yeah, just for the record here. It seemed like they realized guys were getting out after their 4-year enlistment as a paramedic, and I can go make good money doing this, so I'm not going to re-enlist. So when I went through, when you got out, you were an EMT basic as far as the civilian world goes, but then you also they had these other like advanced tactical practitioner, SOCM paramedic, and all like badass titles and stuff, but didn't mean anything in the civilian world. So after all that, like I ended up having to challenge the National Registry. I had to write a couple letters and let them know, like, hey, I was deployed for this time. Because normally, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but normally you'd have a certain amount of time once you take the course to take the test to get your card, if you will.
Yeah.
And so if it's been more than X amount of time,
You're taking the course again.
You got to take it again. But there's an exception for military deployments. And I just so happened that I had 12 months of deployment from the time I got out to when I had the course. And so it put me right, like I had to be right on it, but I ended up challenging the test, taking it. My brother actually pushed me to do it because I was almost like, I guess I got to redo this.
Yeah.
Because the course is, it's better than any paramedic course you could ask for as a civilian. It doesn't have, I had to learn a lot of stuff about how to take care of, elderly people and heart conditions versus taking care of 21-year-old,
gunshot wounds
and stuff.
IEDs.
But all that stuff was part of the course. So we still had to do, all the normal, like, paramedic stuff, if you will, like the required, cardiology and respiratory stuff. But then they added the combat medic stuff. But then some of the cooler stuff, at least to me, was cooler. Is like, because when you're a medic in that role, you're also kind of, like a PA, if you will, for the platoon. So it's like, I describe it as in my time in battalion as being a doctor for a frat house. You know what I mean? Like the kind of the doctor you go to.
Hey, look at my ass. What is this? It's a fucking hemorrhoid.
Right.
Yeah.
But like guys would come up, wake me up in the middle of the night. They need some stitches because they got hit in the head with a parking cone. Obviously no questions asked there.
Yeah.
It seems normal. Okay, let's go. All right. One dude that was like, he was allergic to alcohol. But he wanted.
How did he get into the regiment?
I don't know. So
That's impossible.
He's up boozing. He's turning red, and he's like, "Hey, I don't want to take Benadryl because I don't want to fall asleep. I want to keep partying." And I'm like, well, I've been a medic for like 6 months. So I could probably go down to the pharmacy and find something for you. So I give him a steroid shot. Man. Totally worked.
That's hilarious.
Got rid of this redness. It actually made him more awake. So proud of that. But yeah, so the course, one thing I learned in the course is that Navy SEALs are some rowdy dudes.
Oh, bro.
Holy shit.
Some of my best friends are SEALs.
In a good, like, no, I'm not knocking, in a good way.
So like a lot of Rangers, you'll hear like the SEALs are fucking shitbags. I've heard that my entire Ranger career.
Sleep, eat, and lift, right?
Yeah. And so it wasn't until I got into the contracting world that I started working with SEALs. And everybody's like, fuck. I came from the regiment where everybody talks shit about the teams. And then when I started working with SEALs, every SEAL that I worked with, I became friends with. And like one of my buddies, the SEAL, got me into jiu-jitsu. And like I became really close with some of these dudes. And I'm like, bro, everyone from the community that I know is actually pretty cool motherfuckers.
Yeah, they're funny as shit.
But they are, dude, because I thought fucking Rangers party hard. And so one of my good buddies, it was a SEAL, he passed in October. And we went to his funeral and it was fucking a bunch of team guys. And dude, Seth was 43, right? He's a little older than us. And so his generation of SEALs are all, 40 years old about. Those dudes fucking drank and drank and drank. I felt like a Ranger private. I'd not seen adults drink like this in my entire life.
Yeah.
And like dudes are drinking so fucking much that they're like falling over on the sidewalk, like passing out in the fucking streets and shit. And I'm like, dude, these dudes are going to be fucked tomorrow because we all got into town a day early and we went out drinking. And then the service and the celebration of life were the following days. Mm-hmm. Nope. They were ready to go first thing in the morning, did the same thing every fucking day we were there. And I was just like, dude, I guess the SEALs do have, they can one up the regiment when it comes to partying, because it was fucking insane, dude.
I went on an adventure with a couple SEALs in Jacksonville, Florida. So part of what you have to do in SOCM is go, just like in a civilian medic program, is do a field internship with an ambulance and then a clinical at a hospital. Okay. So at the time they were doing it at 3 different places, Richmond, Virginia, Jacksonville, Florida, and Tampa, Florida. And I ended up, it's just whatever they get you. And I ended up in Jacksonville, a couple other Rangers, some SF dudes, and a bunch of SEALs. And so they put these 20-something-year-old dudes in Jacksonville, Florida, in their like 2, like well split up into apartments, like 4 dudes do an apartment with a few bedrooms and a van to share, and 3 months of minimal I think there was 1 liaison for the whole thing.
Just pure fucking debauchery.
I don't think we ever saw him. I think he's got a house on the beach somewhere. Yeah. He's just enjoying that station.
That's a great fucking duty assignment.
Right?
Hey, watch these guys.
So we're on our own accord, right? And out at a bar one night, and I'm not good with remembering names, so I don't need to worry about calling anyone out. But I'll just say that there was a lot of drinking going on, and me and a handful of other guys, for some reason, decided we didn't want to be in the van that was driving with, somebody probably shouldn't have been driving behind the wheel. So we're like, all right, we'll walk it. It's like 13 miles back to where we were.
Yeah, good.
It's let's like go. 1 in the morning.
Hey, so no big deal, dude.
It was and we're all like brown out drunk, like where it's just a fun adventure. You're just like, everything is awesome. Everything, like we stopped in fountain. There was like fountain bathing and stuff. We found a shopping cart, and we ended up getting pulled over, almost got a Dewey. So we're pushing each other in the shopping cart, and Jacksonville PD comes up behind us, throws the lights on, comes out, and we're like, okay, what's going on? And we didn't think about the fact that it's a shopping cart. It's a theft, right? That's what he's hemming us up for. So he comes up and, what's the problem, officer?
Bro, that's such an Army story, dude. It's a bunch of hammered Rangers and SEALs fucking pushing
on the
each
side
other.
Of the highway in a shopping cart.
Dude.
He's like,
nothing about this story surprises me for a second, dude.
So he's giving us a hard time, and he's telling us how much the shopping carts were. These things are like $550. I could charge you all with theft. And we're like, we just found it in the ditch, which it's our only means of transportation right now, sir. And so he goes, I could give you a Dewey for this DUI. And one of the SEALs goes, well, are you going to give it to me in the cart, or would it go to the guy pushing? And the guy did not. Well, luckily he got some hot call or something. He just, goes through the earpiece, and then he's like, you guys are so lucky. I got to go. And we're like, he's like, take the Leather Shoe Express.
Yeah.
Ditch the car.
Or he just created a call in his earpiece. Exactly. You know what I mean? He's like, all right, these fucking morons. I gotta get out of here.
So then we ended up getting back. Like we hitchhiked across this bridge because there was like there's tons of bridges in Florida over these long spans.
With nowhere for pedestrian.
So we ended up hitching a ride, and it's up being this dude that's literally got a 40 in between his legs. We're like, oh, okay, I guess this is safer than our alternative that we're getting around here. But yeah, so that was a blast. That was.
Did you guys still do goat labs?
Yes, no, we did at the time. I heard that they're not now.
Oh, really? Because when our platoon medics talked to us about the goat labs, and I've also heard, and again, it's just like through the fucking probably the Facebook page or something, no official channel, but that they're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's PETA or what, but I mean, they've got these great mannequins now that can bleed, they can vomit, they'll talk to you. You can make their tongue swell up for airway stuff. Like you can do anything with them, but it's not the same. So
so describe the goat labs then, because this is going to horrify people.
Of course. Yeah. Well, they used to use dogs.
That's fucking horrifying to me, dude.
Well, so these are for patient models, they call them. So it's live tissue training, and basically what they have, they have this supply of goats at the training area, and it's not like some people think like, oh, you got to assign a goat, you got to name it, and then you got to kill it, and that's not part of it necessarily. That's maybe in the follow-on part, you have longer care, but essentially you're just using them to do procedures. So there's a certain surgical procedures that we'd practice. So surgical cricothyroidotomy, or cric, where you're the classic going into the throat to put a tube in there. just a basic intubation. So like what you'd have done if you're getting surgery or something, putting a breathing tube in your mouth.
When would you use a crike versus intubating someone?
Well, honestly, I didn't even carry intubation stuff when I was deployed. On my first deployment, I did, but then as I was talking to other medics, they're like, look, here's the deal. If someone needs an airway because of combat, they bought a hole in their throat, because if they're altered, like that's the least of their concern, is a scar in their throat.
Yeah.
And we're so good at them. I mean, not to brag or anything, but because of all this training on the goats, like we could have a crike put in under a minute.
Okay.
Like sewn in.
Was IEDs like exposure to like all of that heat burn and like have some burns on the inside of the mouth? Would that be a reason to crike someone?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. That'd be a reason to go right to it.
Got it.
In the civilian world though, you have more time. You're not being shot at. There's not other possible casualties. You know,
I mean, in the civilian world, what is for anaphylactic shock, right? Isn't that
that or trauma? I mean,
trauma?
obviously you could have.
Yeah.
It's if you're just looking at their face.
Because I remember, so my dad, he had a shellfish allergy, and each time he would inadvertently eat shellfish, like in a salad or something that he didn't know about, his reaction would get like exponentially worse.
Okay.
And the doctor said, like, there's a good chance this could kill you.
Yeah, next time could be it.
Yeah. And so they taught my mom how to crike.
No.
Yeah, they
didn't just give her an EpiPen?
Fuck, dude, this was in the 80s.
So get your ballpoint pen.
Yeah, bro, straight up. That's what my mom used to say.
Oh,
she's like,
funny.
And she's like, and I just don't know if I could do it. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't know. Hey, listen, you have two options. Cut a little hole in his fucking neck or watch him die.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? You don't know if you can do it. But that's just a Ranger mentality.
Right.
You know, there are people that would sit and watch someone. Dude, I've had a crike explained to me. That's it. Yeah. I've never done one or had any type of lab. I'll cut your throat right now if we need to. Right? You know what I mean? Like,
well, think about the stuff we taught our squad guys to do. Like, they could put a needle in the chest, which, I was explaining that in the civilian side of things. Like, oh no, like, because they do it for cops now.
Yeah.
More and more. It's still a little bit on the, if I don't know what you want to call it.
So let me see. Mid clavicle between the second and third intercostal space.
You still remember it,
right? Still remember it.
It's not. And they already have a hole in them. What are you gonna? How are you making it worse?
When we were doing, when you're doing any training, the cadre will be like assigning casualties. Hey, this guy's fucking gunshot to left thoracic, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was a casualty. And so they put me in a fucking Skedco and we're doing the whole thing. And then the medic's like, all right, he needs a fucking decompression. And I'm going to put a whatever gauge needle. And I was like a new private. And I remember I'm like, he's really going to do it. Like, I know it's training, but I've watched him fucking shove NPAs down people's noses and shit. And I was like, I think he's really going to do it. And then I was like, Roger that. Yeah, I didn't say anything, dude.
So that reminds me of SOCM. So as a medic in SOCM, you have to have a lot of holes poked in you and a lot of your holes poked.
Oh, dude, I've heard horror stories. I've heard horror stories. So, dude, to share the horror stories.
Dude, I have a funny one and it involves a SEAL.
They always involve a SEAL.
So I did recycle SOCM, but I was a medical recycle. I got mono.
Okay. You're always sick. You got a weak immune system or something?
No, I've survived COVID.
Everybody's survived COVID.
I didn't get it.
Everybody survived COVID unless they're morbidly obese or fucking dying of diabetes.
As a medic, I can say that's a fact. Yeah. So there's
here. Before we go on, I'm gonna try that. What is this? Rogue.
Yeah, nicotine patches.
It's a new thing. I gotta quit. Copenhagen alternative.
Yeah. So it's none of the cancer-causing stuff, just the nicotine.
And I don't even chew, but we're partying, so let's check it out.
Yes.
All right, so let's hear the SEAL story.
So part of SOCM, like I said, is taking care of your guys off the battlefield. So it's a lot of preventative care stuff, and sometimes there's guys in your unit that are older, might have to do a prostate exam. So that's part of it, and not only just for that, but also it's part of a good trauma exam. You can. You're supposed to do this on every patient, and I'll get into that, but I can tell you that I didn't put my finger in any guy's butt on the battlefield. Not once. And, so they still have to have you go through it, figure out what it feels like. So I happened to check out on my mono leave like the day before that happened. And I started back a month later. I got my month con leave, come back, and I recycle into the class right behind me.
They just finished up?
It was the day of.
Oh.
But
so they started you right back at the same time. Okay.
And I don't know if I don't think they knew this, but there was an odd number of people in class that day. So I was like, I'm going to say, I didn't lie, right? I worded my words very carefully. I said, I recycled just as this was happening. I can sit this out. I didn't say I did it already. I just said I can sit this out if need be. So
well played.
So they're like, all right, cool. So
your butt didn't get finger banged.
Oh, it caught up to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I get to watch, and this is where the first set of SEALs comes in. So they're having two guys demonstrate up at the front of the class, and one guy gets his pants down. Then the guy that's about to perform the procedure decides that it would be funny to take his shirt off to do the procedure, which it is. I mean, that's kind of,
yeah.
I mean, especially back then, like gay was funny. Like, bro, you're not allowed to anymore, but dude, gay is funny.
People have no idea the kind of shit that goes on in the military.
Yeah.
Like, what civilian course would they be like, hey, sitting in a classroom, hey, we're going to start sticking our fingers up this guy's ass. And then the guy goes, hey, you know what? I should get naked for this. Like, Roger that. Like,
he did get naked.
Yeah, dude, it doesn't surprise me for a second.
Both of them were naked by the end of this.
And they were SEALs?
Yeah.
Bro, I had a SEAL on my team in Ramadi. And, after every mission, we would everybody would go de-kit and like maybe rinse off real quick. And then we do our AAR like an hour after we got back to base. He would come and we'd all do the AAR in like this little central location. The AAR was done in nothing but a cowboy hat every single night. That's nice. What Mac fucking wore. That was his fucking AAR uniform, and just sit spread eagle in this lawn chair. And like, at first it was like, hey, like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Right. And then it's just, hey, that's Mac at the AAR.
Wow. I get it. I do.
I remember another one of our team medics when I was contracting. He was a SEAL medic. He was telling me that when he went through SOCM, they were giving each other IVs in their dicks.
That almost happened to me.
I was going to say, I don't know if you'd seen that one.
I was threatened with it. So when you're doing what's called trauma lanes, that's when you're kind of putting everything together, and they'll have somebody. This is on the cold mornings. It sucks because when you're rotating in to be the patient, you're just in silkies, the Ranger panties, and they have old BDUs that they put on. Because when you're doing this, you're cutting everything off. They'll put wounds on you, moulage, like the movie stuff, and you got to do the full assessment. And they're watching you very closely. I mean, and you got to have this assessment down. Like that was one of the coolest things like that I love about this course is this rapid, like slide in there, medics here, like trauma assessment. Got so good at that, at going down. And I still remember that stuff to this day, but you had to hit everything. And one of those things was one, checking the penis, inspecting the head of the penis. So they said, oh, if the guy's got skin on there, you got to peel the banana. You got to check for blood on the tip of the meatus, which is, in case you don't know what the meatus is, that's the pee hole. That's where the two little folds come together there. So you got to check for blood on the meatus in case there's an injury in there. And you have to check for bright red, BRBR, bright red bleeding from the rectum. So you're looking for, you're doing
a blood sweep on the butthole, huh?
But you're supposed to go back and check the prostate too. And you're supposed to yell out, no high riding prostate, no blah, blah. And
that's for like combat related trauma, like a gunshot or an explosion.
Yeah. If you go to a major city and you end up in a trauma center, you're going to get a finger in the butt.
Okay.
It's the standard as far as.
I've been fingered in the butt one time.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. I went home and I told my wife, I'm like, I feel like I was raped.
You're violated, right?
I was like,
it's not normal.
I don't give a fuck about my fucking whatever year-old physical. That's done.
Yeah.
Men have been living since the beginning of time and dying without having their buttholes finger banged. I'm out.
Right. So we had this scheme going, right? So it was an act, and this is, I'm sure that this is already out. I'm not giving it away, but if you're the person on the ground, you're the patient, you have to participate in this act just as much as the person that's making it look like
so everybody,
you're hooking around
so
and getting
anybody
your finger in their
observing
butt.
thinks both parties are participating.
I mean, you got to get close. I mean, you got to get near the skin. You curl your finger and you act like you're really digging in there, and then the person's got to grimace at just the right time and
So
make it look like they're getting a finger in their butt.
Are they laying face up or face down?
Face up.
So you got to pull balls out of the way, like holding balls with one hand and finger banging with the other?
No, you roll them on their side.
Okay.
I guess. I don't know. It's been a while. Either way, you got it. The instructor's watching their face. They got to know. And I'm sure they had to know. They went through it, right? Unless when they went through, they were just fingering each other every day. That's a lot. Because you do these trauma lanes all day long. You rotate, like you're the patient now. That'd be a lot. You'd have injuries.
Yeah.
Right? That's too much things in the butt. Anyway, so that
and you're
part,
lubing with I remember when we did NPAs, they're like, you can lube it with spit.
Spit, yep.
And then
spit.
Yeah, and then you're shoving something into your fucking nose, dude.
Not any dirtier than what's in there. I avoid the finger in the butt with the trauma lanes because no one knows. But
so you're squaring each other away.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I'm gonna pretend to finger bang you, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to. Roger that. I'm gonna pretend that you are finger banging me.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
And so some of the other things that we have to do is like put a Foley catheter in. So the tube in the pee hole.
Fuck.
So but the cool thing is that
so everybody.
No, luckily I got out of a couple things because of safety concerns. So we didn't do two things to each other. And one was a Foley cath because they were having too many UTIs, urinary tract infections, because they were doing them in the field because that's part of you have different levels of care. You have your at point of injury care, and then you move to a safer location, get things stabilized. And then once you get them not at a hospital, but somewhere where you can actually, put a chest tube in or do that kind of thing, put a Foley in would be one of those things. And they were doing them outside in tents and stuff. And so people were getting these gnarly infections. They're like, this is not worth it. That's because realistically, you don't need to experience that to know how to do it. So they have these things called stunt cocks. And so you basically take these, I don't know if you've ever seen like the tube shaped sharps containers. It's just, you can maybe hold like 5 or 6 needles in there.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's cock shaped. And so what you do is you drill a hole in the tip of that, and then you wrap it in Coban, that tan sticks to itself.
Yeah.
You make it. And of course, this is now it's an art, right? So you have to make your own stunt cock. Of course, you have to put balls on it. You don't need to put balls on it. It's not necessary. It's just a tube with a hole. But
guys
balls.
are taking this serious.
And you're rolling up the Coban to make veins, right? And then you lay it is intricate. I had a big triumphant veiny
biggest,
bastard,
veiniest, hairiest cock.
So you'd get to that point, but so like I said, when you're in Ranger panties and you're the patient, you're getting moved out.
This is my favorite podcast ever. All right. I've done a lot of serious ones. Now we're talking about making veiny cocks. I'm digging.
Oh,
it,
yeah.
Dude.
So you have to go through the process of getting ready to do a Foley cath. So part of that, you open up your sterile thing. It's got all your stuff in there. You're cleaning your betadine, little swabs. You have to set it all up sterile, right? And go through, and you have to actually grab the dude's crank and clean it off and do everything you would. And you can imagine how awkward that is. You're sitting there.
God, dude.
And
I'm so glad I wasn't a medic.
So they're cleaning it off. And then literally you get that tip almost to there, and you're just looking at the instructor like, please say stunt cock. Please say stunt cock. And they're like, finally, stunt cock. What are you, fag? Like, what are you doing? Get that guy's dick out of your hand. And
just fucking waiting till the last second. So you're terrified.
Oh yeah. One guy actually got it. He's the oldest guy in the class.
Oh no.
And I don't know if it was the same day that I finally got my reckoning on the whole prostate exam, but it was right near there, and it was kind of in the same line. So this guy, no one said stunt cock. And he's looking at the whole, and now everyone's gathering around there and watch. So it becomes this public spectacle. He's squirming through it. He does the whole thing, puts it in there. And then somehow I was chatting with one of the SEALs that I had become friends with. And I don't know why, but somehow I said, oh yeah, I never got the finger in the butt. And he's like, what do you mean? And I thought he'd be like, oh, cool. Like, tell me how. And he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you didn't?
Yeah, you're not part of the club anymore, bro.
Exactly. And I swear it was like seconds after I told him, he raises his hand and interrupted instructor. He's like, James never got a finger in the butt, or Merrick never got the finger in the butt. I'm like, what are you doing?
He's like, watch this.
Yeah. So the instructor goes, oh, really? How'd this happen? And I was like, well, there's this overlap, and just missed it, He's like, oh, well, we'll take care of you. And so he looks around the room, and he's like, everybody hold up your hands.
Oh no,
and
dude.
he gets this one of the SEALs is a bigger dude. Like he's one of those dudes that was like, you'd look at him if you saw him on the street, you'd be like, he's chubby, but he's not. Like he's very physically able.
Just a big motherfucker, thick, huh?
Yes. Giant sausage fingers. And so they're like, all right, well, why don't you go ahead and put your hands on that gurney? You know, it's got one of those like folding stretchers set up on one, like the seahorse things. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to make a show. You know, might as well. So I take my shirt off. My pants end up coming off. Next thing you know, I'm naked. He's naked. And I felt dude, I thought it was his thumb. I was like coming off of the stretcher, just like, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, and some people enjoy that.
It's not good. So,
fuck, dude. You know what's funny?
But it was funny at the same time.
Dude, I was literally, and I don't even know why I was thinking about this. It was in the last day or two. We went on a deployment, rotary wing rotation to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And we're staying in barracks that had to be 100 years old.
I think I'm in there.
Okay. And the bathroom is just a circle of toilets. There's like 3 toilets on one wall. I think there's 4 toilets on one wall and 4 on the other, but they're facing each other. And it's just a big open bay. And if the shower is actually on the other side of the shitter. So whoever has to take a shit, you're taking a shit with 2 or 3 other dudes while everyone that's walking in and out of the shower is fucking watching you shit. And like, you just get so desensitized to that kind of stuff. And I actually did a podcast. So you listened to the one with Colonel Chung?
Yeah, the one you guys did at the brewery.
Yeah. So when I was talking to Haley, that was one of my things. I'm like, dude, rangering, there is no fucking room for modesty.
Oh yeah,
like
range.
We used to watch each other take fucking shits, and I pulled security while you're taking a dump 3 feet next to me. And are they gonna change that for the women? She goes, nope.
Good.
So, no, then they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, you want to learn patrol base operations? We take shits in front of each other. That's fucking combat, you know? And so that's cool to see, though, that the girls, she goes, they even have to shave our heads. Like,
I know, I heard that.
So
I mean, I guess it makes sense.
And they should.
But
you know,
that I totally get. It's like, it grows right back for us. It's not the same.
No, it's not the same.
But
and she's like,
dedication. If you're going to do that, like,
and dude, and she's like a young, cute girl with like super long blonde hair, like shaving it. I'm gonna try and get her back on after she goes. She wants to go to Regiment,
right? Or she wants to go to Battalion. S4 or something. Or?
I think there's something like that.
Cool.
So, and I mean that's the direction the Army's going. So people can say whatever they want, or you can just try and ensure that we can maintain the standard.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's what most people say. I mean, it's just like at the fire service. It's like, you know, there's there's no, okay, with a few exceptions, there's no guys out there, firefighters, that are like, I don't want chicks here because they can't do it. It's like, no, I just don't want the standards to change.
Yep.
And it's the same thing.
And I mean, and there's some things that are going to present problems, but so fucking what? That's the life we live, right?
As long as the mission doesn't change.
Yeah,
it's like the whole, I heard that, because, you know, there's, when Trump came in office, they changed some things like with and I don't know if it had to do with don't ask, don't tell, but as the trans policy. And his trans policy was essentially, look, if Private Joe comes up and says, hey, Sergeant, I'm Private Jane now. Cool. Private Jane, can you still do your job and not affect the mission of the team? Yeah. Roger, get on with your job.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 sides
not
to
to
that.
Get on a tangent.
No, let's get on a tangent, because there's 2 sides to it, right? It's like, if you want to be a Ranger and you can fucking hack it, and you can meet the standards, cool, right? Nobody cares who you want to fuck or who you think you are or who you think you used to be, all that stuff. But at the same time, it's also the fucking radical left using every little opportunity to try and push their agenda everywhere, right? And it's to the point where it's like, most guys like us don't fucking care what you do. So you do what you do. But I feel like they have to have like it front and center all the time.
Right.
You know? And that's what's irritating to people.
Well, I think it's because the people pushing the ideology and the people pushing all the policies, that's their goal. They don't, this is my opinion, but it seems to me they don't care about trans rights or gay rights or anything.
No,
they're just happy to get their policies under the guise that, just like with racism, it's like, oh, because of racism, we need to go full blown socialism. By the way, socialism fixes racism. What?
Yeah, dude.
Excuse me?
It's fucking ridiculous.
Why do all of BLM's priorities line up with the Marxist socialist ideology? Like the dissolving the family and all that stuff. Like,
yeah, dude.
The people up above this certain level do not care about the people that they purport to be for. It's like, because I mean, not that this makes me a trans or gay rights expert or anything, but I follow conservative gay people on Instagram or conservative people that are in the trans community. And they're like, this is not our fight. Like, this is ridiculous.
See, and I started to wonder that if it's like, it's just like hot topics that can be fucking talking points to get everybody fired up and mad at each other. But is it even a big enough issue that this needs to be like headline news all the time? Fuck no,
it wasn't,
dude.
When I was in high school.
No.
That was not that long ago.
I'll tell you what, though, I thought it was fucking hilarious when Caitlyn Jenner is like, hey, men don't need to be playing girls' sports.
Right.
And I don't care if you're trans or you're pre-op or post-op. It's a different thing. And everyone's like, he's trans or she's transphobic. It's like, actually, let's talk about who she is. An elite athlete and a transgender person.
How about a subject matter expert on both fields? Yeah,
exactly. That's right. So if anyone knows about being an athlete and being competitive and being transgender, maybe you should take her point of view as with some fucking validity, you know?
Progressives in California are sweating right now. Yeah, do you want the first transgender governor? But they're conservative. They want like American values.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It's fuck, dude. There's that meme of like the two buttons. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I was thinking of. The guy's sweating.
Yeah, he's sweating.
Yep.
Which way do I go? It's hilarious.
It's perfect. It's like, I don't care what you do. Just please don't be trying to get into law that kids can take hormones.
I think if you talk to most reasonable human beings, regardless if you're on the right or the left or you're gay or you're straight or any of this stuff, we're a lot more aligned than the media portrays.
Correct.
You know? And I've talked about it a lot on this show. Like, dude, you want to talk about a fucking melting pot? Talk about the military, right? And not so much the regiment. They used to call us second racist battalion because we all looked like clones of each other. Just a bunch of fucking 185-pound bald white dudes. Right? But through all my other military experiences, like, you fucking work with all types of people. And I've never heard someone be like, hey, we don't want that fucking Mexican in our squad.
Right.
I don't like those fucking wetbacks.
Maybe he's an asshole.
Yeah, well, dude.
But it's because he's an asshole, not because he's Mexican.
And if you are an asshole, then we are going to use your sexual orientation, your race, whatever, to like bust your balls.
Right.
But nobody is seriously racist.
No.
And I didn't
You can't be.
I didn't
you
see
have to
it.
rely on them.
I didn't see it in the military. I didn't see it in law enforcement. And dude, I did that shit for fucking goddamn 20 plus years. And so that's what makes me realize is like, are there some fucking racist pricks out there? Of course there is. But it is, dude, now it's to the point, everybody's racist.
Well, there's a supply and demand problem in America right now, right? So they're looking and searching for racism, but it's not there. That's why you have like the Jussie Smollett's, right? Or what was that NASCAR thing? That one was a little bit more innocent. I get like maybe that guy just real quick glance. I don't think that guy was trying to become part of this woke crowd. But either way, it's just another example of
dude, Jussie Smollett should be publicly fucking executed for that bullshit. You know what I mean? Like the one thing that we need in our country right now is unity. That's it, dude. That's what we fucking need right now. I don't care who you fuck. I don't care what color your skin is. How do we identify as Americans to each other?
Right.
And dude, I mean, my theory on this is that the internet and the media has created this fucking like boiling point where everybody interacts with each other, but in a fake level.
Yeah.
Like it's not real.
Yeah.
When you're posting pictures and you're talking shit to people and everybody starts to get spun up. But if you put those same 5 people that are you ever check like a thread on Facebook that you post and you get like 3 people arguing for like 45 comments, right? And it's like, what the fuck, dude? You put those 3 people in a room across a fucking table like we are right now, they're not going to talk to each other like that.
Right.
There's not a fucking chance they are. And so we've allowed ourselves to start to interact with each other in a way that's unreasonable. And then on top of that, you're being fed all these fucking like hot topics all the time. Every time you open your phone, every time you turn on the television, it's, oh, this person hates this person. Like, dude, fucking Biden, he said this like within the last 48 hours about the white supremacy thing.
Oh gosh.
Did you hear that?
Oh, when he was in, where was he? He was doing the
just
Oklahoma.
Yes.
Yep.
And I'm going to fucking play it right now just because I fucking saved this video because of how just fucking insane.
It's the biggest threat we have.
Bro, this is the sitting president talking about exactly what we're talking about. Not rooted in fact, just fucking spinning people up in more divisive bullshit, dude. So here, listen to this. All right. Ah, damn it. Hold on.
From white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists.
And of course they clap.
White supremacists. White supremacists are the biggest threat. And it's like,
deadly threat. Not just threat.
Lethal threat.
Lethal
dude.
threat, right.
Back that up with some fucking data, dude. What are you talking about?
What are you talking
What
about?
are you fucking talking about? And dude, like, it's white supremacy. It's fucking COVID. It's trans people. It's just constantly, dude, gays hate straights. Fucking blacks hate whites. Now it's fucking vaccinated people hate unvaccinated people. Bro, the fucking flu shot has been around as long as I can remember. And I've never got it because I don't care about the flu. Every time I get the flu, every few years I'll get it. And guess what? Sometimes it sucks, but it's like, whatever. Never in my life have I had someone be like, oh, you didn't get the flu shot? You're a fucking piece of shit, dude.
Right.
Now, that's where we're at now, though.
Well, first of all, Greg, as a medical professional, I need to tell you that this is not the flu we're dealing with here, okay? This is a very deadly virus.
No, it's not as deadly as the flu, actually.
No, right now in the country, because of the vaccines that are out right now, this thing is less deadly than the flu, including all age groups.
Yeah.
That's including all the old fat people that are mostly dying from this, that tips, like if you know anything about how averages work, that should tip it more towards deadly, right? And still not as deadly as the flu right now, based on how many people are vaccinated. What are we doing?
Yeah, dude.
What are we doing? So case fatality rate is less than the flu. We have X amount of people vaccinated. Why do you care if I'm not or I am?
Yeah, bro. And now you saw Newsom doing a vaccine lottery. And guess what?
So did our
Inslee said like today. I saw it when I woke up. I was just reading some fucking news articles and it said Governor Inslee is going to announce his COVID vaccine incentive plan. And it involves like the head of the Washington State Lottery. So I haven't heard exactly. That was just like a fucking headline. This was going to happen today. So I'll check it tonight. But dude, what the fuck is going on? So it's one of two things are going on. A, it's just a giant money-making scheme, right? Like, how do we fucking get everybody to take this vaccine and just get money in the pockets of these fucking like politically elite, super rich motherfuckers? Or there's something more nefarious going on. And I don't go down the fucking QAnon rabbit holes. Like, that's never been me, right? But dude,
I might dabble there a little bit.
Well, bro.
Not for entertainment.
Yeah, the Fauci emails came out, yesterday or the day before?
Yeah.
And
that guy needs to go.
He's straight up saying, yeah, masks are bullshit.
Mm-hmm. And he also knew it was a lab leak, or at least people told him.
And he thought that that was credible. Yeah. And dude.
But he lied for your safety.
Oh, God, dude. Yeah, exactly.
Several times.
Have you ever heard, like, think about that. One thing that is ingrained in young Rangers is fucking leadership principles. In what scenario are you fucking authorized to lie to your men? Like, no, you give them the cold hard truth.
Right.
And if let's say there is a scenario where, hey, we only have this much of this equipment and these people need it, guess what? That's how it's going to go down.
Right.
And you're going to have to suck it the fuck up. Not, well, let's just lie to them to keep them happy. And then we'll tell them that later on that's what we did.
Yeah.
What, motherfucker? Strung up for that. You're fucking the highest paid government official that lies to our nation and then says, I lied to you guys for your benefit, string that motherfucker up, dude.
Have you seen him going up against Rand Paul?
I love Rand Paul.
That guy's the man.
I love it, dude.
It happens. So
someone that's on.
So he calls him out on the double masking, right? Did you see that one where he goes, "You're fully vaccinated and you're sitting here wearing 2 masks. You don't call that political theater." And then he goes on a thing about the variants, which is, first of all, the Pfizer and Moderna both appear to do fine against the variants, no matter what you think about the vaccine, one way or the other. The data shows that it's working. So I don't want to argue with it. Like everyone's all like, "Oh, the vaccine could have this. It's got nanobots and this." Maybe. I mean, it doesn't seem like it. That's a lot of that stuff's been debunked. There's,
Well, and every time I talk about the vaccine, that's exactly what I say. And I've had some buddies on the show that have given their opinion and talked about the nanobots and things like that.
Right.
And this is what I continue to say. I'm not fucking trained in that field.
Right.
I'm not intelligent enough when it comes to understanding all this shit on a molecular level. I can't understand it. Right. But I do have a lot of common sense. And it's just like you said, if the shit's working and the numbers are down.
Yep.
Why the fuck do you want my 6-year-old girl vaccinated?
Exactly.
What the fuck's going on here?
That's a good point. So the whole thing being, you were talking about, I got totally sidetracked there.
Rand Paul.
Oh,
where are we going?
Yeah. So Rand Paul, every time he talks to him and he lays out the evidence, like he's like, look, this thing is 95% effective, 95% effective at not transmitting it. We knew this back in February, March. The Israeli study comes out. There's a study done by the Israeli Minister of Health and Pfizer on the vaccine, because that was the first country that had most of their population vaccinated. So they had like 2 million people worth of data, and that's where they got their okay. Because the initial reports came out 95%, and I think a lot of people in the medical community are like, yeah, right. What kind of vaccine? 95%. That's not a thing, especially one that's rapidly developed like that. So then it was kind of proven with that, but then in that report, it said, because everyone at first, I don't know if you remember, there was the phase of, well, okay, the vaccine works, but you don't know if you're spreading it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then how are you going to get people? What's the point of getting it then?
Yeah.
What is the point? If you're healthy, then don't get it. If it doesn't keep you from spreading it. That's the only, I did end up getting vaccinated. That's my father-in-law.
All my listeners hate you now.
I know. I was reluctant, and I'm a little bit.
Bro, and a lot of my friends have got vaccinated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I run a jiu-jitsu academy and we have over 100 students. So guess what? It's a diverse group of people, and you have people that are vehemently against it. And you got people that didn't train, didn't come back to the gym until they got it, and everything in between.
Right.
And that's why you got to approach this vaccination thing just like anything else in life. You do you, man.
Yeah.
Well, now that people are talking about the shedding thing,
I know. And
you doing you is fucking me. But again, bro, that's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Let's say that the most nefarious theory that is in existence out there is true. And it's this was designed for genocide. If that's what fucking gets me, then that's what gets me.
Right.
Like, I didn't live my life in fear when I was living in Ramadi, Iraq, getting shot at every day. I'm not going to live my life in fear because somebody got a vaccination that could potentially harm me at some point in the future. Like, I don't give a fuck, dude.
Right.
Well,
so once I heard that you could not spread it, or like that, when that data came out, I was like, okay, all right, that could be worth something. Because my father-in-law's got cancer and he's going through chemo right now. And so I was like, all right, well then that makes me feel more comfortable going to visit him. Mm-hmm. I also happen to listen to this I listen to this podcast called Z-Dog MD. And he's a self-described libertarian. So he's been I've been listening to him to hear like kind of the apolitical part of this thing.
Yeah.
He's literally just going through data. And he's like, everything about these vaccines looks great. He went through the safety stuff, and it's like, you can say it's safe up to a point, right? Like, so far, based on phase 3 trials in your age group, it appears to be safe based on X number of these. But what does that mean about long-term? Like, there's such an unknown. But I was like, okay, I got it. And it also, honestly, part of me now is I'm still, I won't know. It's in my arm now. I got it. But part of me is glad.
If you turn into a fucking robot and are part of the resistance,
it just
our Ranger bond will be broken.
Yeah.
I'll be like, James, it's not you inside there anymore.
Or zombie.
I'm sorry I have to do this, dude.
You wouldn't be sorry.
Like putting down a sick dog, dude.
Right?
But here's one thing that I've brought up before is that there are side effects from the vaccine. There's been some adverse side effects. Now you want to talk about the percentage and the chances. Okay, let's talk about that. But what they're saying, they kept using the term, side effects are statistically insignificant. Okay, I can agree with that. If 1 in a million people have a side effect, you want to call it statistically insignificant, that's fine, right?
Right.
It's also statistically insignificant that 6-year-olds are dying of COVID.
Yeah. They're not.
But if you say that, it's like, oh no, listen, you don't understand. Like you can't have it both ways. When there's a very, 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 very small chance that something could have an adverse effect, I should be able to make an educated decision on what route I want to go.
Right. Because what's the other side of that?
Yeah, exactly, dude.
What's that? Especially with kids, I don't think that kids should be getting this vaccine. There's been, and I checked 2 weeks ago, and the data's delayed by like 14 days or something. 230 kids under 18 have died.
And they're morbidly obese.
This whole time.
Yeah.
In the whole country. 230 kids, and they all had
comorbidities. Yeah, dude.
So if I've got a 12-year-old, first of all, this shouldn't even be emergency use authorized for that.
No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
What's the emergency? For old people, old fat people? Absolutely. It's an emergency. If they get this thing, they could die. Okay, Here, throw this vaccine in you. Worst, you're probably going to die from heart disease in a year anyway.
And I've said
What about a 12-year-old? The alternative is they get the disease, may or may not know it, and they recover fully.
And bro, if this was something that had a fatality percentage of 55%, and it's like, fuck, dude, if my kids get this, it's a coin toss if they live or if they die. Now I'm willing to take a vaccine that is kind of unknown and the long-term effects are not understood well. Because it's a fucking gamble.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
either you're using rational reason.
It's either this or
to
that.
To make an educated decision for yourself. You're not allowed to do that in this country right now.
And so I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I don't like being told what the fuck to do, especially by inept politicians. Because, dude, we've worked for the government our entire adult life, right? Mm-hmm. Has that given you faith in the U.S. government?
Not at all.
You've seen what a fucking clown show it is at all levels, right? And so when I've observed this for fucking 20 plus years, and then some fucking politician like Jay Inslee is going to tell me what I have to put in my fucking 6-year-old daughter's arm, we will fight to the death.
Absolutely.
Gladly. Yeah. I'll die today over a vaccine. And not because of it's dangerous and there's nanobots in it. None of that shit. It's that you don't get to fucking tell me what I put in my children. Period, dude. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but what I've seen over 2020 is a lot of people feel one way, but when the pressure's put on them, they cave.
Absolutely.
All the businesses that stayed shut down. Bro.
Yeah, what is up with that?
Bro, I opened my business and defied Jay Inslee's orders because I was already fired as a police officer. And now my gym is what feeds my kids. If you're going to try and take my fucking gym away from me, which is on my property, I built it. I'm the fucking head coach there. Everything about that place is fucking created by me. And if you think you're going to take it away from me, we're fighting to the death.
Yeah.
And I'll gladly die today. And dude, I put videos out. I'm like, if you want to shut me down, come and try and shut me down and see what the fuck happens, dude. And luckily, and dude, it's just by chance that the Snohomish County Sheriff, his name is Adam Fortney, and he like followed my story closely. And I actually want to get him on the show. He's a cool dude. But he told the governor, I'm not enforcing any of your rules inside of this county. And he didn't.
Good.
And it's like, bro,
that's what sheriffs are for.
Bro, there's a very good chance that if I had a fucking pussy sheriff, that I would have had a shootout with police officers.
Yeah.
Because I told my wife, dude, I was taking my fucking AR-10 in my vest with me to the gym because I'm like, today's the day that I might be going to fucking war.
Yeah.
Because I saw so many other people being arrested out of their gyms. And I said, just for my own pride, I'm not being taken out of my own gym in handcuffs.
Yeah.
There's a 0% chance that that's going to happen. And, dude, what crazy fucking times we're in. I'm potentially thinking that I'm going to have to fight police. And I've been a cop for the last decade and I might have to fight cops over this COVID bullshit. But this is how I justified it in my head. I said, you know what? If these fucking people, you're a 32-year-old fucking sheriff with 2 small kids at home, you know what you're doing is wrong. And if you're going to follow orders to the point where you're depriving me of my freedom, well, you're my enemy now.
Right.
Sorry, homie. And if I fucking shoot you, that's that. And I won't fucking shed a tear. And I mean, that's a Ranger in me coming out.
You both swore an oath. Only one of you would be upholding it.
Yeah, that's right, dude. You know? And so I finally have felt like in the last month, I think we're good now. I think all this shit's blowing over. More people are starting to see it for what it was.
Right.
And we were getting letters and phone calls. You have to shut down. It's reported that
Recently?
you're still... No.
Oh.
This was months ago.
Okay.
And then those died down. And now everything seems like it's going back to normal.
Right. It's only being... the whole thing is only being driven by politicians.
Yes.
Unions, teachers and nurses unions. Anyone who has an incentive to have this thing keep going. Because think about it. And this is no offense to nurses out there. I have lots of nurse friends. We work together.
Fuck the nurses. Offend the shit out of them, dude.
In a union, although not a big union guy, Cap.
Fuck the unions too. You know what my union did for me when I got fired? Nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Greg, after we reviewed your case, we realized that we just don't really have a leg to stand on. No, you don't have a leg to stand on because you're coward faggot fucks that bend your knee to the political elite. Just like every other police department, every other agency, every other union, just cowards at the top of it. Because when you talk to people behind closed doors, most of them feel how we feel.
Right. They won't say anything, though.
But then as soon as
because it's
a little bit of pressure's put on them,
it's self-censorship.
Yeah,
I was just listening to.
That's why I brought the word faggot back on my podcast,
right?
Because that's the word nobody can say.
You know what's funny?
You can't say the word faggot, and it's like I'm not talking about gay people. I'm talking about someone that's just being a little fucking bitch.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a Ranger thing, but there's a guy who's at my fire department that came from 375. He was a sniper in 375, and he's like, yeah, we should bring the word faggot back. And just like you said, he's like, no, not for gay people. I'm not going to go up to a gay person and call them. That's rude, first of all.
Bro, I don't say rude
shit. It's a totally separate word.
Yeah, I don't say rude things to anyone at any time for any reason unless they got something fucking coming. And if they do, then I'll say whatever the fuck I want to them.
Right.
And if I want it to be fucking hurtful and degrading, I'll choose hurtful and degrading words because that person deserves it. It's not, and dude, that's why I tell my fucking kids, I swear openly in my household, and my children are 6, 9, and 12. And I tell them, you know what matters is context, not the fucking words.
Exactly.
I said, if you go to the playground right now and you see a little girl at the playground and you say, your hair looks fucking beautiful today. Okay. Or you go to the playground and you see that little girl and you say, your haircut's so stupid. You look super ugly. What's worse? It's context.
Yeah.
And everybody's just pretends that the certain sounds of these certain words are bad. I don't give a fuck what you're saying, how you're saying it. I give a fuck what your context is.
Right.
Is the message you're delivering, is it from a mean place? Are you a mean-spirited person? Do you like to bring people down or do you like to build people up? And dude, I don't understand how that's a lost concept, you know?
Yeah. Well, you got to teach your kids how to curse, right? Because otherwise they'll learn from their friends and they'll sound like idiots.
Yeah, that's exactly right,
people
dude.
That curse every other word, fucking this, fucking that. And it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound cool at all. You sound dumb.
Dude, we'll be in my 4Runner. And it's usually when my wife's not with me. And my wife's cool as fuck, dude. She's no stress when I talk like this in front of her. But when it's just the girls and me, they'll be like, Dad, can we say one swear word? I say, yep, you can say it one time in the car. You can't say it once we get home. You can't say it when you're at Auntie's house. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, what word am I going to say? What word? Motherfucker. And then they'll be like, like all laughing. And then another one of my daughters will be like, bitch. And I'll be like, you got a free pass and you use bitch? That's not even a swear word. Like,
that's like cathartic. Like they were just needed to get something out, right?
And dude, like, and there's probably people listening right now be like, oh, he deserves fucking Parent of the Year award. But dude, I'm teaching my kids to be good human beings and be nice and kind. I teach them to stick up for the weak and fucking don't allow themselves to be bullied and fucking how to have a strong constitution. I don't give a shit what they say.
Right.
I give a shit how they act.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. Yeah. We had an incident with our 3-year-old in the car because we're a little bit lighter with the swear words. I curse like a sailor at work and it probably comes out on here more, but try to be good around my kids. Mm-hmm. But like we tell them like like stupid under the right circumstances is a curse word. And so we're like, all right, you can say stupid as long as you're saying stupid virus if you're talking about this thing. And so we got my kids strapped in the back, and then we're heading on the road for something. And all of a sudden, you just hear the 3-year-old in the back going, when is this fucking virus going to be over? And my wife and I both turned around like with the same speed at the same time. And he's like almost in tears just with our look, when you give them that look and they're like,
you didn't just give him a pound and be like, that's my little man.
Well, that was our initial reaction. And then I was like, you can't say that and turn back. And I was like, that sounded great, right? Like,
dude, he did
had
good.
The emphasis on it perfectly. It was the right context. That was good, actually.
That's funny, man. Like, I remember my dad telling me a story. And dude, I'm my father's son. Like, anyone that thinks I'm crazy, they haven't met my dad. He's fucking me times 10. He's passed now. But he told me a story that like when my sister was like 3, same thing. A bee started like buzzing her and she was trying to swat it. And she's like, fucking bee. And he's had the same thing. Like, I was kind of proud. Right. She used it perfectly, Well, fuck, dude. We went on a fucking 40-minute tangent, but that's what I love about the show. That's why, like, when we sat down, you're like, do you have a direction that you want to take this? I'm like, no, dude. I just like to bullshit with cool people, But I do want to get more into the Ranger Medic stuff because that shit's interesting to me. And obviously, I lived that life. And my platoon medic, he was this fucking dude from Boston, rugby player. Yeah. He was like the toughest dude in the platoon. He could beat up anybody, and he was the medic, right? Yeah. It was fucking rad. Doc Poe, shout out. But we were just getting into like our fucking combat rhythm. I got 2 deployments to Afghanistan with the regiment, and then I went into contracting, and that's where I went to Ramadi, and that's where shit went sideways
I thought you were in Ramadi with battalion.
No, okay. I was with Triple Canopy.
Gotcha.
And so I tell everybody, dude, I got combat as a contractor. I didn't get combat with the regiment. I did 2 deployments, and I never even fired my fucking rifle.
Okay.
And we did some...
that's right, you were on a QRF.
Yeah, I was like QRF. We did a lot of QRF in Afghanistan and did like downed aircrafts and stuff. But meanwhile, Bravo companies are fucking slaying dudes out in Shkin and Gardez, and like I'm sitting in Bagram Airfield fucking reading books and lifting weights, just devastated.
Did they have the massage parlor when you were there?
No, they got a massage parlor in Bagram.
I was there in 2008, and they
Happy
had
endings.
A couple months before I got there, apparently they did, but that got shut down. But still, $20 for an hour massage.
Bro, I heard there was some U.S. like American soldiers, like females, going home with like 20 grand cash.
No,
because they're just fucking whoring themselves out on
just
like
working
a Kandahar airfield and shit, dude.
I could see that easily.
Yeah, of course, dude.
We I may or may not have some pictures on a hard drive that were left at an MWR. They got passed around. Maybe someone might have put together a PowerPoint. I don't know.
Oh, fuck, dude. But yeah, we stopped talking about your medic stuff and went off on our tangents. Yeah. Basically when you're wrapping up SOCM.
Yeah. So finished up there in spring of 2006, and then we got to choose like your first, second, third choice for what battalion you went to.
Okay.
And I think I went like 2, 1, 3. Nothing against third bat. It's just I figured the beach would be cool. I lived in the Northwest.
Nobody wants to go to third bat.
But they do get some of the cooler missions though, right?
That's because they're next to the flagpole. Yeah, right. Yeah. Of course they get the cool missions. Yeah. They got the Haditha Dam. They got the jump into Rhino. Right. Which I'm sure if you've listened to the podcast, you've heard I was supposed to jump into Rhino.
Oh, you were? What happened? No, I didn't hear that.
So 2nd Battalion had one company in Amman, Jordan. Mm-hmm. And that was my company. And we were there right after 9/11. And so when 3rd Bat got the mission to jump into Rhino and fucking invade Afghanistan, they said, well, ACO 275 is in Amman and they're going to augment the mission and be a attachment.
Huh.
And so we're fucking stoked. We're getting to invade Afghanistan. And bro, it was October 19th, 2001, my 21st birthday.
Whoa.
And then they fucking like, actually, we've determined it's a battalion size mission. We don't need 2nd Battalion. So we sat there and fucking just listened to the radio. Like, come on, dude. And they killed one dude. And I heard that dude got shot 200 fucking times. I told the story on yesterday's podcast, so people are probably sick of it. But I mean, that's what fucking Rangers do, right? It's like, this is the first person we've got to kill since Somalia. Let's go.
Yeah.
But No, I didn't get to do that one. So fucking this sucked, dude.
Gotcha. So yeah, I got to second bat, which I was stoked about because it's 2 hours from my house. And I love the Northwest. And so I show up there, and I think they were mid cycle. So they were 3 months out from deployment. And so I got a little bit of a train up, but it was still just a lot. Like I got first assigned to HHC, kind of get the stuff figured out, introduced to the battalion aid station, all the other medics and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think it was maybe a couple months there. And then I got moved to BCO with Jake Denman's platoon. Did you know Jericho Denman?
No, I don't.
He was that great guy. I was really enjoyed working for him.
He was a platoon sergeant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he ended up because I ended up shifting over to DECO when they opened that up. But he went on to be a first sergeant at 175, I believe. I don't know if he listens, if he's hearing this and I'm wrong. Sorry, but
you were talking about it in past tense. I thought he got whacked.
Oh no. He's
okay.
He ended up works with movies now. Like he helps on sets and stuff. I don't know if he's still doing that, but last I heard. But anyways, yeah. So it was with his platoon. I was a junior medic to Ronnie Rhines, and he ended up leaving just before deployment. So I ended up as the only medic for the platoon. And ideally, you'd have two. I don't think I've ever seen a time where it was consistently that, but you'd like to have a junior and a senior medic.
Oh, you know what? I was about to say we only had one, but you're right. We did have two.
Yeah. So, and oftentimes if they're short, then the company senior medic will go fill in on some missions and stuff. And that happened with me. But yeah, my first rotation was to crit.
Okay.
So we did 92 missions in 90 days.
Fuck. See, dude,
So
I never
busy.
we were busy, but we weren't doing like all the high speed shit yet. Like you guys are going after HVTs every night, right?
Every night we hit at least one house, if not two.
That's fucking
was
rad,
so
dude.
much. I have a really cool. We had was it this deployment? I think it was this one. It might have been. No, it was this. We had Air Force combat cameramen with us.
Mm-hmm.
So we had one dude with a still photo, which by the way, these guys had like these little shorty M4s because they had just been with an SF unit that just tricked out their rifles. They've got like 10.5-inch barrels. And these guys were working with us. They were zip tying guys. But they put together this compilation video at the end, and it's a pretty cool video. Like they put music to it and everything, and it's helmet cam.
You still got it?
Yeah, I have it with me. I could totally send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me. I want to see that.
It is really cool. And
is it OPSEC shit or like?
I don't think so. I don't know. I took it off of the hard drive with a bunch of other. There was some stuff that like 175 had left, some helmet cam videos and stuff.
Yeah.
I got like my war hard drive, but yeah, I'll happily send that to you. But yeah, it was just clearing house after house after house. I mean,
and
so many breaches.
And so they use, one thing that's cool about the regiment is even our cooks. Like I used to take our cooks on patrol.
Mm-hmm. Or mechanics.
Yeah, because dude, you're a shooter first, right?
Yeah.
And so were you typically hanging out with platoon sergeant wherever they were at?
Yeah, so I was on the platoon sergeant's hip.
Okay.
My first couple, I don't know, I'd say maybe the first quarter of the deployment, maybe third of the deployment, I was, we had our company senior medic with us, and he would roll with my platoon sergeant just because I was brand new, and I'd end up on perimeter.
Okay.
And
perimeter gets some of the best action sometimes.
That's where I ended up shooting dude for the first time.
It's not nice.
It wasn't the smoothest.
So do you know, I would think that his name is OPSEC, but I just read a book called Relentless Strike. Have you read that book?
No.
And dude, half of the book is about him by name. Doug Taylor. Do you know him by chance?
No.
So he was a unit guy. And he was an enlisted unit guy. And then he went and got his commission. So the regiment's like, you're going to be a PL, right? Like as a butter bar. Right. Normally you have to do a fucking platoon time somewhere else.
Right. Unless you're prior enlisted.
Yeah. If you're fucking prior enlisted in the unit. Right. And so he comes over as a fucking, sorry, technical difficulties. My dog just jumped up and grabbed the mic cord. He comes to the PL position and he's on perimeter. And this is like Bravo Company 275, one of their first hits, right? They're going after HVT. Mm-hmm. And the dude that they're going for bails out a window and lands right at Lieutenant Taylor's feet. and he smoked him. And I was like, what the fuck? Everybody in the platoon wants to get their first kill. And then you got a dude that already has a bunch of kills. And that's who got it, you know?
Right. Yeah, that was one thing I was thinking when I go over there, like it was just going to be game on, combat, all ticks all the time.
Yeah, dude.
I would say we got maybe 10 decent ticks out of those 92 missions. And it was few and far between, but I mean, I went in there just ready to go. Like, I have a kind of a funny story. So I was on, because I ended up with a chalk of like some extras. So like FBI dudes, and I don't know if I can say that, some other people that were going in on the deployment with us. And I didn't go with the platoon because I was brand new medic. And so I wasn't with people that knew the routine. I was with a couple of civilian people and some random others that were like, I don't know, this is my first deployment too. So I'm getting ready and I'm like, they packed up everything, including like my nods. And I'm like, oh man, they must not know I'm in this chalk. So I went to the armor and I'm like, hey, like my nods are going with this other chalk. They're already palletized and stuff. I want them with my gear, don't I? Like with me on I'm like, I don't know. I'm guessing.
That was one of the biggest takeaways of Mogadishu. Right. Have your nods with you.
So the armor checks me on another pair. I don't think anything of it. I pack them away. I go, and first of all,
please tell me you ended up with a pair of nods. Is that where the story's going?
I ended up bringing the nods that they had been searching for. So I'm going over there, and I first of all, it was like one of the coolest things I've ever experienced was when I got there. I think we flew into Balad, and then we went down to Baghdad, and then somehow on a helicopter going up to Tikrit. So I got to go fly middle of the day, all like over the whole country. Meanwhile, I'm like sitting there thinking I'm about to get into a gunfight. Like every time the helicopter turns, I'm just scanning, and meanwhile everybody else is just chilling, you know. But so we get there, and I unload my stuff, and like I could tell like there was something going on. There's some tension in the air, and I just, you know, I guess I was specialist at the time. Merrick come walking up and, hey, I'm here. What's up? And they're like, do you have any idea where these nods are? And I'm like, well, I got the ones I packed with me, and I think the ones that I was assigned are already here. And they're like, let me see them right now. Pulled them out. Sure enough, it was the serial number they were looking for. And I don't know how it went down.
Blue sky.
But whatever. Like, yeah, it was, because like I said, the armor was just like, here you go. These are good. And I thought I was like, I'm being a good, diligent ranger. Like, I'm going to need these nods. I know. No, they were pissed. And that was like one of the worst smokings I've ever had. That's my first introduction to combat, was just getting my balls smoked for having an extra pair of nods.
When I was an NCO, I did not smoke my men just because it was post 9/11. Everybody knew we were fucking going down range. Like I never felt like I learned well just by getting the shit smoked out of me.
Yeah.
I learned better from the NCOs that would sit me down and be like, hey, this is why I'm fucking disappointed in you. It's like, oh fuck. It's like you let dad down.
Yeah.
You know? But I had a private. His name's Silverthorn. I'm putting you on blast, motherfucker. Dude, we're in Kandahar and it's just my squad down there. The rest of the platoon's in Bagram, and my squad was in Kandahar. And we were staying on an SF compound, and we were doing a mission. I don't even know if you can call it a mission. We were going out with some fucking Air Force guys to measure dirt density to see where aircrafts could land. Because the C-130s would land throughout Afghanistan in like dried up lake beds and stuff. Mm-hmm. And this was early on. So maybe that's just SOP now. But early on, they're like, before we land our aircrafts, we want to understand the density of the dirt. So we'd go out on 47s and do dirt density testing. And we were the security element for these Air Force guys.
Huh.
And so we were living on this little like SF compound, and like their team sergeant or whatever comes up and goes, hey guys, we're grilling steaks tonight. And he goes, we didn't know we were going to have an extra squad of Rangers, but we have like 4 extra steaks. And I was like, fuck bro, that's the best news I've ever heard. Right? Like, we'll take it. That's cool. Thank you. So then we said, hey guys, we don't have enough steaks for everybody in the squad. So everybody grab a Ranger buddy, split a steak. Pretty simple fucking concept, right? Private Silverthorn grabs his steak off the grill, goes into the GP medium in the corner, and ate the whole thing. Bro, that should have been RFS as far as I'm concerned, right? Like, dude, if you'll fuck your Ranger buddy out of half a steak, what else are you going to fuck him out of? right?
That's true.
That's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
And me and Hash was the other fucking, he was a team leader in the squad, and he's like, we went in there and like, you want to eat fucking the whole steak and fuck your fucking Ranger buddy over? It's coming back up. You don't get to eat that whole steak, and just smoke the dog shit out of that kid. But I wanted to RFS him over that, but they wouldn't have that.
No, I get it.
I guess, dude, you know how it is. Like, I can either trust you or I can't.
Yeah.
If you show me like some blatant disrespect or like distrust, you do something that lets me know like, oh, if it ever benefits you to not be there for me, you'll take that path. You shouldn't be in the regiment anymore.
That's what we call in the fire service a watch out.
A watch out?
A watch out.
Yeah. Silverthorne, you're a watch out. Did you ever have any Rangers get severely or wounded at all that you had to use your skills and be a combat medic? Not
in my first couple deployments, actually. We had a couple minor injuries. Mostly it was bad guys I was working on.
Okay. Dude, that's great practice though.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I mean, it was on my third deployment, I did end up working on a Ranger, but yeah, my first two, I had like I don't know how far into it was, but we hit a couple houses, and as soon as we blew the door charges, looky-loos started coming out, and one of our snipers picked up a guy that walked out with an AK. I honestly, to this day, think he was just checking out what the fuck was going on in his neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because there was no other sign that he was bad or anything, but not to say anything about the sniper or whatever, but he ended up taking a round, from an upward angle just above his clavicle.
Okay.
And he ducks back inside. Like the sniper's like, I just shot this guy. He's back inside. So the platoon sergeant the platoon sergeant squad leader grabbed me, went with a squad to go clear that place. And I'll say this only because it's something that kind of fucked with me, and I don't mean anything against my platoon sergeant, but prior to this, and then meanwhile, I'm a brand new medic, right? So there had been another platoon in another place in Iraq that took some enemy wounded, and they ended up medevacing him or casevacing him out. And they were talking about that, and in the brief, my platoon sergeant turned and was like, "Hey doc,
we're not medevacing.
We don't have fucking enemy wounded. Do you understand? Because I don't give a fuck if you have to put your foot over their fucking mouth." and I'm like, fucking Roger that.
Yeah.
So now I'm in a scenario like, and this. So I go in, we clear this place, we flashbang it. We're going. This dude's standing, looking at me with a fucking hole in his chest. He's trying to protect his family. We're zip tying everybody up.
Well, here's the other side of that is you said after you did an assessment of like who that person was, you didn't feel like he was Al-Qaeda, Iraq, or Taliban, or wherever the fuck.
Correct.
Where were you at again?
We were, so I don't know if that mission was in Tikrit. We were working that point,
Okay.
Tikrit and Beiji and a couple other little spots. But yeah, so I didn't get a big vibe, and the dude's conscious and blinking and looking at me, right? Like he's got a serious, like the bullet went right straight through his chest. Like
was he getting a tension pneumothorax?
He did end up, so I ended up dropping a chest tube in him. But like there was part of me that I was like, wait, I'm like, dude, lay down. Like here, lay down. I got to assess, I'm going through. I'm like, wait a second. Usually my patient's on this is my first combat patient. And like he's standing up looking at me with a hole in his chest. I'm like, no, you're supposed to lay down, get on the ground.
Bullets don't kill people like you think they will.
No.
And that was a lesson learned in Ramadi is like and TTPs have changed as a direct result of how many people have fucking combat experience now. But it used to be like, you double tap them and then, you triple tap them and then you quadruple tap. No, you just mow the motherfucker down.
Yeah. They do the shifty dance. You shoot them with 223. That was as we named it. They're just like standing. It's literally like the movies, like some movie where they're shooting with a machine gun. And they're just like shaking there. That actually happens.
Yeah, dude.
So this dude, I'm looking at him, and he's just looking at me, terrified. That's the thing I will never forget. Like the look on his face. Like, dude, I heard a noise. I came out with my legally owned AK that I'm allowed to have with my 2 mags. To check out what's going on.
Some asshole shot me.
Right. And I immediately get shot before I could even see what's going on. And he's looking at me with this.
Good on that sniper though. Sounds like he was dialed in on his sector.
I hope if that person's listening, like, fuck, dude, I didn't know I shot No, like there was a total good shoot. But so I'm looking at this guy and I'm like in my head going, I got to put my boot on this guy's foot. This guy's very alive. Like this is going to, and I've had my boot up. This is an insult, right? I showed him the bottom of my foot, right? Isn't that supposed to be something?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Whatever. So, it crossed my mind. I was like, no, I can't. And immediately I was like, no, just take care of him.
Bro, you'd be in Leavenworth right now.
I know.
You know what I'm saying, dude? Like that's a cool thing to say.
Left.
That's a cool thing to say. We don't take enemy. Like,
right?
You know what I mean? Like I get it. And trust me, bro, like, if I had some fucking ISIS fighters that I had detained and no one would know the difference if I just pushed them off of a rooftop, you're damn right I would.
Yeah.
Fuck those guys, right? You didn't have one of those guys. That's a different thing.
Right.
You know?
Totally. So yeah, so we end up patching this guy up, getting him loaded up in our, we were using strikers. So that mission, that deployment, I'd say it was like maybe 65, 35 strikers to half missions. And so we had the medical evacuation, it's like a striker with no big gun. And it actually had the Red Cross on the side.
Yeah, because they won't blow that thing up.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, except for we got hit with RPG.
Yeah, shocking.
So we load him in the back, and I'm doing the dart, put him in there. Blood starts coming out. I'm like, oh, that's neat, and I
You weren't getting the whoosh.
No, because it was
that
mostly
you always
blood
hear
in
about.
there.
So dude, let's talk through that then. Let's talk through that because we've referenced tension pneumothorax a couple times, but like, I mean, you should unpack that because I think I could, but you're gonna have the better verbiage.
So you have to have a certain pressure, negative pressure in your chest for your lungs to breathe. Like, have you ever done that experiment where you have the balloon in the bottle and like a 2 liter bottle, you squeeze it, and as you squeeze it, it creates a negative pressure, and the balloon actually inflates. So it's the same principle that your lungs use. And so once that cavity is punctured with a bullet, and if the bullet's big enough, it's generally got to be a pretty decent sized hole to make this happen, but it'll suck air in. So they call it a sucking chest wound. So you're sucking air into that cavity, and then it as long as it can't get out, if it can get out, you're generally going to be okay. But if the hole's big enough to get air in, but then, you got like skin and, goo.
Shredded muscle and shit.
And all that's keeping, it's almost like a one-way valve.
Yep.
And then as they breathe, the air is also coming in through the hole in their lung. So there's a couple different ways that it can happen, but basically it just fills that either one or both sides of the chest cavity, because your chest cavity is split. So you have your heart's in the middle, obviously, and then each one has its own little pocket. And if that pocket's penetrated, it starts just pushing on your lung. And what actually doesn't kill people to shrink the lung, because especially if it's only one side affected, you have another lung.
Yeah.
But what happens is that that air starts shifting, and it pushes up against your heart, not only your heart, but also the giant vein and artery that are running in big red, big blue.
Yeah.
That you want to take out with bullets. That'll get pushed and compressed to the point where you no longer are circulating anything. And that's what actually kills you from a tension pneumo. Is not necessarily,
can't
it's not
breathe.
the lung being collapsed.
Okay.
It's
I guess that makes sense though.
The shift.
Because you get
mediastinal shift.
Like they used to tell us to look for like tracheal deviation and JVD.
That'd be a late sign. You don't really see those much. It's
okay.
It's honestly comes down to, is there a hole in their chest? Are they having trouble breathing? Does it look unequal? Go ahead and put the needle in. It's very low threshold for when to, and those things are usually pretty late signs. Like someone's been sitting there gasping, like you should have stabbed them long before those things show up. But it's always possible. But
so you try and stick them with a needle, and you're not getting anything.
6 times total.
Okay.
And they just like kept on. I was like, all right, I guess we're good doing a chest tube. So I've done tons of these on goats, and I did, actually I did some on people in the hospital in my rotations up to this point, but never
under anesthesia.
Never like in the back of a dimly lit, dusty vehicle.
Yeah.
With minimal equipment. So I'm like, cool. So
Did you hit the dude with morphine or anything?
So I actually had another medic with me, and I asked them to give them morphine and Versed. Versed is something they would give you like pre-op to make you forget stuff.
Oh, okay.
And
so this dude didn't have PTSD from fucking Specialist Merrick fucking cutting his chest open.
Yeah. So unfortunately there was a miscommunication, and instead of putting the medicine right into the IV port that would go right into your vein, put it in the bag of fluid.
Oh shit. So diluted the shit out of it.
So now it's just dripping, and so the medicine's in there, and I'm like, well, he needs this done. I'm already here, whatever. And
it's either die or live with some fucked up memories.
And the first cut you make, especially the way they taught us to do it in a hurry, is cut right onto the rib. So you're not trying to shoot in between. You just basically, you feel the rib, put your knife, your scalpel blade right on it, cut deep all the way down to the bone, basically. And then your goal is to take these giant hemostats, like, scissor looking things, but with a blunt tip.
Oh, that pries stuff open.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you take that, and then you just go right over the rib, pop a hole into their chest cavity. Yeah. Then you get like a whoosh or blood coming out. Then you spread that apart. But think about it, the length of the rib. So you're spreading the meat between the ribs.
Got it. Yeah.
And opening up that space, and then you got to stick your finger in there and feel around, and then you basically just change out your finger for the tube, and then at that point with this dude, you'll either get air or blood or both. And with this dude, it was just tons of blood in there. And I remember in training them saying, cap it off after 500 milliliters. And I'm like, well, I don't have anything to measure this with. So I find a cooler, like this little igloo cooler. And I dump whatever lunch was in there and I have it start filling.
You're saying cap the chest tube after if they've bled out 500 milliliters of blood?
Yep.
Okay.
Because at that point, if you keep on doing that, you're just going to drain
They're
all the blood.
bleed out.
But if you clamp it, then you're going to, they have a chance for clotting, naturally clotting off in there from the pressure building up.
Okay.
So it's kind of a balance. You're like, all right, well, the guy's got one side of his chest. It looks like just a pneumo. I can keep it from becoming a tension pneumo. But I guess there wouldn't be a tension hemo, but in case there's air and stuff in there, have that available. But, and even at the time, I don't think I even really remembered why they said to cap it off or whatever. I just remembered, cap it off. Okay. Yeah, the igloo cooler's a quarter full. That seems right. All right. and
We're
then,
getting danger close to 500 milliliters.
So, I mean, that was pretty much his only injury. We'd drive him back after they cleared the houses and did all the, gathering all the stuff. And because he wasn't urgent at the time, he was awake still. And
when you say drove him back, where, to the aid station?
Yeah, gosh, where were we? I don't even remember the name of the base in Crit, but whatever the main base was there, they had I don't know if it's an FST. They had surgical capabilities there.
Okay.
So we just brought him back there and we bring him in there. And of course, we're wearing the minimal identification uniforms. And we come in with this dude with the chest tube in, and that's not normally in the scope of practice for a regular Army medic or Navy medic. Some units do. Like there's some like high speed entry units that will train their guys. Their docs will teach them how to do certain stuff, but it's not. Anyway, so this doc's like, who put the chest tube in? I'm like, oh, that's me. And I'm, 22 years old. He's like, what? Yeah, I can do that. And then I was like, oh, and here's the blood. And I just hand him this igloo cooler and he's like, what are you doing, bro? Like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. He got shot in the chest. I give give him a report. And like, the guy was just so confused. Like, I don't think he'd ever experienced that. And I don't know, of course, made me feel pretty bad. So,
bro, there's so many crazy stories from fucking combat that like, people hear it doesn't even make sense.
Right.
It's 20-year-old kid fucking putting chest tubes in guys.
Yeah.
One of my buddies was with the unit and he was in, I want to say it was a Black Hawk, but maybe it was a Little Bird. I'm not sure. He was in a trail helicopter and there was an Apache in front of him, which Apaches aren't part of the 160th. So I don't know like why they were working with them or whatever the mission was necessarily. But dude, the Apache fucking crashed. And he watched it crash. And he said they landed at the crash site and fucking medevac the dudes. And he said both birds took off. And he's like, okay, well, and him and a few guys were left at the crash site,
Yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, are you coming back to get us or what, right? But he had comms, right? So he's securing the crash site with some of his guys. And he sees a hand, like perfectly, like, preserved hand that must have got hit by a fucking sheared rotor blade or something, right?
Yeah.
He said it looked like the hand was just cut off with a fucking butcher knife. And so he radioed back. He's like, hey, so like, I got a hand at the crash site. Dude, they sent a fucking another bird with like a little cooler with ice.
Yeah.
And some dude jumped off the bird, ran over to him, was like, dude, give us that fucking hand. He said he threw the hand in the little cooler. And then that dude ran back to the bird and they took off a second time. And he's like, what the fuck? Or like, what's the plan here? Like, and I guess they just decided, hey, him and some of the guys are there. You guys are securing the crash site until further notice. and he's one of the most high speed motherfuckers I've ever met. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. It's like, even at the highest level of operating, things turn into shit shows.
So did the hand go back on?
I don't know. He said he has no fucking idea whatever happened to the hand or to the guys or anything. He's like, dude, I never heard a fucking thing about it, dude.
Wow.
So
yeah, that deployment, we did have one casualty. A dude got shot. I mean, we had a couple little things, but one guy got shot in the knee with a 9mm.
So he just walked it off.
No,
he took a knee and faced out, took some Motrin.
It was weird. It was interesting. The mission was right along. This is one thing. I wish I was better with geography when I was there. Mm-hmm. I was just like, oh, I'm one of those guys that came back and I saw that's like, oh, Southwest Asia service. I was never in Southwest. Oh, is that where Iraq is? And I had no idea. And there's some dudes who are like, oh yeah, this over here the culture's a bit different, and like they had it down to like the different tribes and stuff. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
You know, officers and stuff.
Now,
That's
some
their part of
guys
their
are
job.
just fucking geeked out on that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
But dude, do you ever go back on Google Earth and
Yes.
like look at where you were stationed, look at the routes you used to take? And it's like, I'll look all through like Ramadi and Fallujah, and we had a team house in Baghdad that we were living out of, like out in the city, outside of the green zone. And I'll like try and find those little neighborhoods that we used to go through and the houses and stuff. It's just cool, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Cause that fucking imagery is so fucking like crystal clear now.
Right.
You know what else you can see? And I wonder what the delay is on like when the photographs are taken on Google Earth versus when they're available. But dude, like Al Assad Air Base, all these big air bases,
You can see the whole thing?
where
It's not blurred out.
fuck no. You can see where all the helicopters are parked and all the jets and shit. It's
That's
like,
weird.
man, that seems like an OPSEC violation.
Totally does. Yeah, so I would know like what I need to know for the mission. Like because I was, you know, the medics got to do their part for the whole, you know, I'm saying pre-op. That's like it's really, what do we do before each mission?
Which is the op order?
Yeah. So I had to do my PowerPoint as far as like LZ, closest LZ, secondary, tertiary LZs, and where medevac birds coming from, primary and second. All so I knew
Casualty collection points.
Yeah, all that stuff, and I have to measure the distance for all the birds and stuff. And I other than that little space, I had no idea what was going on. I kept a compass on me just in case I had to call out direction of fire or something like that. But yeah, I was kind of so we were on this mission near a river, and these dudes squirted out, and we're running towards the river, and I was with the squad trying to catch up. We heard like a little bit of fire, like a couple little, you know, because you're used to rifle fire. So when a pistol, especially we had, you know, sword and ear pro at the time, you know, which was great. So I was like, is that a pistol? And then all of a sudden I hear just a burst from a saw. I did think he just must have dumped the whole nutsack. And so get up there, and they had already, it was happened so quick that our guy it was one of our squad leaders. I can't remember his name. Reed, I think. Anyway, he took it just to the side of the knee, and we didn't have even time to call like medevac. It was our ISR bird just like heard the call, and like, hey, I can come down and pick you up. So they just landed in one of our, like, I think we had another medic on that. He just jumped in with them, and they just took off in the ISR bird.
Okay.
So I get there. Turns out that this dude was running away, turns behind. The old, by the way, this is how people get shot in the back by the police. It's possible.
Of course.
When you're running and you turn and you shoot and you effectively shoot someone. Yeah. So this guy ended up taking a nutsack from a saw into the face.
Okay, good.
So I got to see the aftermath. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. And if anyone's wondering what a nutsack is, it's just a little cloth pouch that clips into the bottom of the M249 machine gun that holds 100 rounds.
Right.
And I haven't been a saw gunner since I was fucking 20 years old.
And it'd be the Mark 46, right? Or no. Yeah, Mark 46 now.
Is that what it is now?
Yeah. So it's the shorty version with the collapsible stock, and then the shorty.
Dude, we got that one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They're sweet. And then the shorty 240s, the Mark 48. Yeah. So, yeah, I actually first couple deployments just got the experience on the bad guys, which I don't know. I couldn't have asked for better. And then, you know, because meanwhile I'm thinking each deployment, like I'm going to end up like multi-casualty events and this and that. And, you know, I feel very grateful. But
did you ever have any IEDs casualties that you had to treat?
No, we didn't, but we had, I don't know how we did on a couple times. It was my into create, or I maybe it was in Beijing where we actually got hit. I don't know if it was an IED or a couple of giant mines, but again, I got the picture. I'll show you. We had a mechanic out on that mission. Not that he was able to fix the rig. He was standing in the crater that it had to be up to his shoulders or above his shoulders.
Oh, fuck.
And that was in the vehicle right in front of us. I was in the MEV, the medical one, and it hit so hard that like it ruptured our eardrums in the vehicle behind them. And the driver of our vehicle said that the striker did like a 2-foot bunny hop when the thing went off, and it just blew all the tires and wheels off. I mean, the thing was destroyed. But I remember at the time,
the dudes inside were okay.
They ended up okay.
Wow.
Which is I mean, like obviously TBI, they all have to have really bad TBI. I ended up TBI, but I think half that's from breaching. Honestly,
everybody has TBI.
You know, when you get punched in the fucking face when that 1600 grain ECT goes off and you're minimum safe distance. Right.
Bro, I remember the CAG guys like were teaching us breaching one time, and they're just like, we just get far enough away where we can just basically turn our head, close our eyes, open your mouth, and you're good.
Yeah. Don't forget to open your mouth.
Open your mouth, right?
Oh my gosh.
But
Kicks your ass.
Bro, they started getting like micro fractures in their teeth. You know, it's like
there's a lot. There has
and the same thing with the
TBI
fucking like Carl Gustav gunners.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Andy Stump.
Do you rounds? How many?
Was it 5 or 6?
5, yeah.
Is it something like that? Like you're only
never followed it.
Andy Stump had a guest on. Do you listen to Cleared Hot?
I do.
I love that podcast.
Yep.
He had Kevin Owens on, who was like a career special op guy.
Yeah, it was recently, right?
Yeah. I actually met him briefly down at Fieldcraft Survival headquarters when I was down there doing the podcast with Mike Glover. But they were talking about that and laughing. And it's funny when you're hearing stories that you can like reminisce about yourself. Is like, dude, no one gave a fuck about how many Gustav rounds you shot,
right.
You know? Or just because you're pulling the trigger, that's your round. What if you're fucking spotting for him and you're right next to it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Away. It's like, the same pressure you're experiencing. Yeah.
I'm glad I was never a Gustav gunner though. Fuck that thing, dude.
I like to be able to go out to the range whenever, you know, and just like, oh, Doc wants to fire 1 round. Well, I'm good. I'm good. I'm going to go make sure you don't get hurt. But
man, they had I remember they had an personnel round that was flechette packed in anticoagulant powder.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
And I was like,
powder?
That sounds like a violation of the Geneva Convention.
A little bit, right? We can't even have hollow points, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I was talking about that IED hit. So that was the first time that because I'll say this, I was thinking about this the other day, leading up to this. I remember thinking, because we had gone on lots of missions by then, not in any significant contact or anything. And I just remember thinking like, what am I going to do and like really make contact? Like, am I going to be able to do it? Like, because every time I go on a mission, like there's part of me that's fucking terrified. Like, yeah, you know, like still got through it and everything, but I'm thinking like, is that the people feel this way? And it's nice to talk to other vets now. And they're like, oh yeah, dude, like nobody was just going in there like, oh, I'm completely like there's nothing. Mm-hmm. But I just remember kind of second guessing myself. And I remember that IED hit. And I just remember my emotions were like fucking pissed first. Like, oh, it's game on. Like this is what happened. Cause it was our TTP to just basically, it wasn't indiscriminate firing, but basically covering fire as soon as you get hit, and while you're moving past the down vehicle, and our vehicle's right behind it, so we're like just rapidly moving around. I'm like, this is it. Like, okay, cool. Like, there's a firefight going on. Also, there's probably some dudes that are fucked up. I'm about to do my job in a big way right now. Mm-hmm. Like, I was picturing just bodies, and so I'm like that. But then like I was just like fired up. Like, oh, there's gunshots going off. I'm gonna get some on before, and I'm like, and I remember thinking like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to try to kill as many motherfuckers as I can while I get to that other vehicle. And I was like, it kind of like, for me, I was like, well, that was just your thought. Like, and I was like, cool, like you're good to go. Like you're ready. Like if that was your initial thought, like, I was bit, like they hit us. I was like, cool. All right. That is the proper reaction.
So they initiated an ambush. You were on the X.
Yeah. There was no follow-on ambush.
Oh, there wasn't.
No,
okay.
It was, so I don't know if it was a pressure plate.
So it was just outbound fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just outbound. And it was 4 a.m. There was nobody around, but that was just our
kill everything that you think you see right now.
That's kind of how it was.
Bro, that was normal.
I mean, yeah. So, but yeah, that was intense. But yeah, all the dudes, so the gate couldn't even, the door couldn't even come down all the way, the troop door. And I'm just poking in there expecting the worst. And guys I'm like hearing coughing, and I'm like, oh, good. Like all the dust is in there.
Yeah.
Everybody was standing up. It didn't even penetrate the hole. And so like,
so it deflected the blast.
It gave us a lot of confidence in the striker. Although like one deployment later, they started making shape charges that could go straight through the engine block.
Yeah. I mean, the enemy in Iraq, they weren't dummies.
No.
And their fucking TTPs would adapt to directly reflect like our countermeasures.
Yeah.
You know, I had a buddy get killed by what were they called? No. This is gonna drive me nuts. The shape charge IEDs. What was the acronym for that?
I can't remember. I've replaced so many military acronyms with civilian medical firefighter crap.
EFPs.
Okay, yeah.
Remember that? Explosive force projectiles. Mm-hmm. So it was just exactly that, a giant fucking shape charge. And I remember going to his funeral, and he was my teammate in 06. And like, you could clearly see where it just like severed him in half because it was open casket.
Wow.
And it's like, there's a cloth over his body. And then you see like, you can clearly see his torso. And then once it got to like his like lower like groin area, it just went flat all the way to the bottom of the casket.
Wow.
And I remember another one of my teammates is like, dude, do you think we should like maybe put a piece of wood in there or something.
Right? Half a mannequin or something.
Yeah, if we're gonna do open casket, like,
wow,
this is pretty fucking gruesome, you know?
Yeah, the IED thing, that's just so dirty. You know, when I went through basic, it was coming because I guess it'd been around a while because I was in basic in 04, but everything was an IED.
Yeah, dude.
Like they were like, we were road marching or something. Private, you just walk by that milk carton. What if it was an IED? Like all day long. Just, and it's like, well, think about when
bro, in 04 though, when they like, because during the invasion, IEDs weren't really a thing.
No, I mean, when they were stripped out Humvees.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I didn't experience that, but
talking to guys, like I wasn't I wasn't in the invasion of Iraq because I was stuck in Afghanistan. But once the IEDs started to become a thing, and like, oh, there's a garbage can and it'd blow up, right? So then they started to see the Humvees swerve away from the garbage cans. So then they'd bury one on the other side of the road.
Exactly.
You know? And so you just never there's no real way to know.
Right.
And then they had the, I forget what they were called, but the devices that could push out all the different frequencies to detonate them.
Oh, and even the wizard, warlock, something like that.
The warlock, that's right.
Yeah.
But they told us in 04, they're like, well, we can't use the warlock downtown because of potential civilian casualties. And we're like, we don't give a fuck about civilians. You know, like that's the mentality you had down there.
Also, I mean, if you, like I was saying, if you get hit, you're shooting anybody with a cell phone.
Yes, dude.
I mean, but it didn't go well for anyone.
I mean, that's the whole fucking trying to balance like what's maybe within your ROE, what's ethical, but also what fucking keeps you alive.
Right.
And those are very often two different things. And bro, that was one thing that was good about the contract world is like, we started to see like patterns of behavior and you knew who the bad guys were and you knew who was fucking playing the game. We didn't have to play the game.
Right.
You know, you'd have a guy fucking step out from behind a building and fucking rake a car with an AK and then step back out and like hands up like, oh no, you know what I mean? Cause like,
well,
sorry.
I mean, there would be people that would come up to blocking positions just to draw fire, just so that they're, I mean, honestly, martyring.
Yeah.
You know, that would come up and there'd be an unarmed person shot so that they could put that, you know, out there. It's like, what?
Yeah, dude. No, that was the best part about being in the contracting world because it was, everyone thinks like, oh, those guys were just fucking out of control. No, all those dudes were a bunch of former unit guys. And I somehow weaseled my way on that fucking team because Triple Canopy ran a selection. It was like a 3-week selection of PT and shooting. And the one thing that young Rangers are good at is fucking keeping your eyes open and your mouth shut. Like, I feel like we have the strongest military discipline inside of the special operations community.
That makes sense.
You know? And so like, cause in selection, there were some SEALs and some Green Berets that got shit canned just because they were rocking the boat too much. Well, what about this? So it's like, well, you're in selection right now. So what about that means shut the fuck up, right?
Right.
And I feel like Rangers are good at just shutting the fuck up and driving on, you know? And so I got on this team with a bunch of unit guys and I was 22 years old. And it was fucking awesome.
I bet you learned a lot. That's a lot of wisdom right there.
It was fucking rad. This is like, I planned on doing that for the rest of my life. But then, like everything, all good things come to an end. And contracting got very watered down. And Triple Canopy kind of went to shit. And then Blackwater was Blackwater. And dude, a lot of Blackwater gets a lot of heat, but there's a lot of good dudes that work for that company. But there was also a lot of, I don't even want to say like shitty dudes, but they just aren't on the level of the fucking dudes coming out of the special operations community.
Right.
And when you're deployed to Iraq, you want the fucking best dudes on your left and your right. Mm-hmm. And that's actually why I always tell people, if you want to go be a warfighter, you have to go into special operations because that ensures that the dude on your left and your right are fucking going to be capable and motivated.
Right.
Because if you go to the 82nd and there's some stellar fucking dudes in the 82nd, but there's also fucking shitbags and they can't do anything with them. They have nowhere to send those guys. So you might be downrange with a guy that doesn't even want to be a fucking soldier. Yeah. You know?
There's no way I would have deployed again except for with a Ranger Battalion or some special operations.
Yeah.
Like when I got out, they were still doing what recall? Is it recall? When they
would
need certain MOSs?
When they would hit you up for your IRR time and pull you back in. Bro, I got a letter that said you had to report to wherever, and I threw it in the fire.
Nothing happened?
And I was deployed 9 months out of the year.
Oh.
So I was like, if something does ever come to this, I'd be like, dude, I was in Fallujah.
Right.
Like, sorry, I missed your letter, you know? No, nothing ever came. I don't think they really did any follow-up on that stuff.
Weird. Yeah. So I had been hearing like, oh, they need medics, especially if you're, got the
you're going to get called.
Qualification or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. So I knew there was a unit in Oregon, the National Guard unit, medevac, and they do like rescues on Mount Hood and stuff. And they're all like, they run like paramedics, like other civilian paramedics.
Okay.
It's like a high speed, a National Guard medevac unit, if you will. Like they're historically dust off. It's pretty cool. And so I happen to know they were getting ready to deploy, and that I had, a year and a half or something non-deploy. You get like a certain time they can't deploy you once you get out. Like, from your last deployment. And so I did the math on it. I'm like, well, cool. Not that I would really mind deploying with them. It's a medevac unit, but I was of the mentality, like, I'm not going to get recalled, sent to a leg unit, and then deployed for a year
with a bunch of shit
I don't
bags.
know. Yeah. Your words, actually. I agree.
Bunch of shit bags.
Yeah.
Bro, so, I was in the reserves for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Right when you got out?
Yeah, and it's a shit show.
Yeah. This
I went into an aviation unit.
Okay.
Because I wanted to fly, and I became a warrant. I was in flight school.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I got medically discharged because I hemorrhaged my retina in flight school.
Yeah, you can't fuck with your eyes.
Yeah, they said if you fucked your eyes up, you're out of here. But what was I even going with?
Oh, I don't know. You said you were a reservist.
Oh yeah. So I remember doing fucking PT tests in the reserves. There was dudes running like 20 minutes on their 2 miles.
Right. Did they get to, because I saw this too, when I was in the Guard, they have the walking option.
Bro, I don't know.
You can power walk.
So check it out. It's a mile out and a mile back, right? It was a fucking straight out and back course for the 2 mile. I took off. I hit the turnaround point. I'm halfway back, and there's still people going out. And dude, I wasn't like some fucking super fast guy. My fucking 2 mile time was usually around like 13. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But a 13-minute 2 mile in the reserves, you're like Usain Bolt, dude.
Yeah. Exactly.
But fuck, man. So did you ever deploy to Afghanistan then?
I did, yeah. My last trip,
deployment?
That was also one of my favorite deployments, just because different type of op tempo. We got it on way more in Afghanistan.
You did?
And the fighting was more, it was more intense. Like in Iraq, like I said, that dude flailing and shooting behind him. Yeah, or like the guys shoot. Like they were just, I don't know, they gave up most of the time. Like I said, most of the time we didn't even get in a tick.
So you were fighting dudes in Afghanistan that wanted to get it on.
Yeah. And
like maneuvering on you and shit. That's fucking rad.
So less of those, less quantity, but bigger quality.
Got it.
And and so that was when we stood up DECO. So all the battalions stood up DECO for the first time since World War II. Mm-hmm. And at the time, Major Chung, now Colonel Chung, was the company commander. And
plus
then
Delta Company just sounds cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he mentioned, I can't remember the first sergeant's name. He mentioned Reese Teakle was the first sergeant. And Bohannon was I was in 3 Delta, and Bohannon was my platoon sergeant.
Got it.
Dude, love that guy.
Bohannon. Do you stay in touch with Bohannon?
Me so well. I think we were friends on Facebook, but I don't do Facebook anymore because it tends to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
At work.
Roger that. Dude, Bohannon's a homie for life. And so at some point, he'll fucking be out here.
That'd be cool.
And you'll have to drive up, dude.
I would totally do that. Yeah.
And I know you don't drink anymore, but maybe it'll be an excuse to have a Guinness with us.
We'll see what happens.
We'll play it by ear.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, dude, we're already at 2.5 hours, and we didn't even get into your firefighter shit.
No.
Guess what that means?
You want to come back?
Follow on episode at some point.
Sounds good to me.
But hey, one thing we forgot to mention is because you just drove up from somewhere in Oregon.
Central Oregon. Yeah.
Central Oregon. And you brought me some coffee from one of your homies, and he gave me a bag of coffee. I just wanted to give him a shout out. So go ahead. You give it.
So we got Farewell Coffee Roasters. That's in Central Oregon. It's firefighter owned, and it's really good stuff.
Okay.
Check it out. I think it's available online.
Do they is there a website on their package, or let me take a little look at this. Nope. It just says Farewell Coffee Roasters. So yeah, if you want to support firefighters, go ahead and check that out. And if you hate firefighters, don't buy this coffee.
Yeah,
very simple, right?
Black Rifle.
And then you see, we had our Paleo Valley grass-fed beef sticks on the table, just a little impromptu commercial because they're fucking delicious, but you never ate one. So you don't know if they're fucking delicious
I had
or
one
not.
of these rogue things and I didn't know where to put it. And I didn't want to be that guy that just goes,
dude, we could have shared a spitter.
you know, like the put it right on the desk here kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, dude, I mean, I feel like we could fucking talk forever, but I like to keep these around this length. So we'll wrap this up. Yeah. But is there anything else you want to put out, or if you're not a social media guy, you probably don't want people finding you and following you?
No, I'm on Instagram. I think it's James M275. One thing I was just gonna, like you said, I don't drink, and you know, I hope that we can talk about that in the future because it's something that's positive in my life. It's helped me get over PTSD and lots of stuff. So yeah,
and I was just it's we can touch on that because obviously I'm just busting your balls a little bit, but I don't really drink either.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll have a few beers here and there if I'm visiting buddies. But how many Rangers do we know that alcohol ruined their fucking life?
Absolutely.
And there's nothing cool about that.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was cool in battalion.
It's cool when you're 20 and you live in the barracks and you just get fucked up every night because you have to buff the floors for an hour. And that's something that's a byproduct of cleaning your common area.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not cool when you have a 1-year-old and your wife's like, hey, do you remember what happened last night?
Yeah, dude.
No.
No, bro. And I think it's a part of like maturing as a man. Mm-hmm. You start to identify what aspects of your life are toxic, and it's time to cut some of that shit out. And dude, then that's what was so shocking about hanging out with those SEALs for that weekend. Cause it's like, this isn't like, oh, hey, we're fucking partying for a weekend. You could tell. And it was also a funeral weekend. So a lot of dudes were mourning, but still, just because your homie died, just becoming belligerent every single night. What that tells me is a lot of those dudes, that's how they deal with their feelings still.
Right. That's what I was doing.
And dealing with your feelings by fucking drowning it in liquor, you're not going to come out better for that. You're going to come out worse.
Right.
You know,
it's a depressant.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be like, for the first, I don't know how many years when I got out, I was like, oh, I don't have PTSD. I had this theory that if you joined to be like a Ranger or Special Forces or something, you don't get PTSD because you know what you were getting into.
Exactly. Yeah.
No. It's the Jessica Lynch's, the people that were just they were on a convoy. They didn't want to go into a gunfight, or they just joined for college money. Yeah. I fully bought into that. And then all of a sudden one day it's like, my wife's like, hey, can you stop getting hammered drunk every night and crying to me about like war stuff? Maybe get some help, you know?
Yeah.
And I loved it. Like I needed it.
Well, good, man.
But yeah, so that's a whole nother.
You got professional help?
I didn't have to go to like, luckily my mom, well, I don't know if it's lucky. My mom got sober 5 years before I did.
Okay.
It runs in my family, alcoholism. And so I really should have been more careful, but you know, who's here's, hey, your grandfather was an alcoholic. You got to be careful. And I'm 20, you know, you're 21 going, yeah, I'm better. Yeah. I'll beat this thing, whatever. But yeah, so my mom actually helped me. And like I said, that's a whole other story itself, but.
And bro, I've talked about on the podcast before, like killing bad guys. And I didn't shoot very many people, but my team, I saw a lot of fucking dead bad guys. Never even began to fucking like have an emotional response.
At the time?
Yeah, I didn't
of course
give a fuck, dude. And we've even seen like fucking kids get killed in Ramadi. I remember we fucking watched this car get fucking, we were doing counterflow because the traffic was stopped, and it caused a car wreck where this car flipped over and a bunch of kids flew out dead on the street, like little fucking Iraqi kids. Yeah. And I remember to this day thinking, fuck those kids. Like, didn't give a fuck, dude. Fast forward 15 years, you have your own children, and I'm looking at a little 3-year-old girl that is mine, that is precious and innocent. Then you start to connect those dots. It's like, man, you were just being a calloused fuck because that's how you dealt with things back then. Never is it cool to see a 3-year-old girl die. Never is that funny. No. Never is that something you should make a fucking off-color joke about. Right. But we did. Does that make it right? No. It makes it how you dealt with it, right? And I say to this day, if you went back after missions and sat in your hooch and cried your eyes out, you probably be combat ineffective, because guess what? The next morning you're going out again, or the next night you got another mission. So you have to bury that shit. But I don't care who you are, how tough you think you are, that kind of stuff, it's going to come back to haunt you.
Oh yeah. Well, there's stuff I thought was cool at the time.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
instance.
exactly.
I mean, and I don't think I should get into details. Just,
Until next time? Okay.
Well, just chat with you before I put it out to a couple 100,000 people. But I don't think it's against the Geneva Conventions, but it's pretty terrible stuff in regards to, like, let's say bodies.
Yeah.
And that at the time was like, oh, that's badass, And now it's like, oh, that's what they call a brain stamp,
Yeah.
It's something that, anyway, it's you look at it differently when you're older and more mature,
Yeah. And as your perspective changes, the memories remain.
Yep.
So now you're looking at that stuff through a different lens. And dude, if you didn't look through it through a different lens, it mean you're not maturing as a man.
Yeah.
You're not becoming wise.
Or might be a psychopath.
Yeah. Or you might be a fucking psychopath. Yeah. Like, war is a young man's game. Now, with that said, if I could go up on a rooftop and start shooting members of ISIS tonight, like, I'd buy a plane ticket to Syria now. You know what I mean? Like, there's always...
what about when Iran was popping off?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? I was looking up the age. Apparently dudes were looking up, I'm saying dudes, young people were looking up how to get out of the draft. Like that was like the most commonly searched thing or something like that.
Oh, really?
I was searching like,
how do I get back
who will take me at 36? Like 30, whatever it was. I just remember thinking, man, I want to go.
And that, dude, that's
join the Air Force. I don't care.
That's the weird dichotomy of war, is that it's like, on one hand, it's so fucked up. And the older we get, the more I look back on some of the things that happened. And even the war itself, I sometimes think, like, what were we doing there?
Yeah.
What did we gain? I'm sitting at my buddy's funeral looking at him, he got cut in half by an EFP, and his wife's bawling her fucking eyes out. Like, that's just my story. Every Ranger has that story. Every fucking Marine has that story. And for what, And so on one hand, I'm like, you look back on that and you think, what were we doing? But then there's still something inside of me. Like I just said, man, I'd go back tomorrow if I could.
Oh yeah. Do you ever, you listen to Jocko?
Oh yeah.
Do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
Yep.
First of all, Jordan Peterson saved my life.
Okay.
Literally. And yeah, that can go along with the drinking and all that stuff, but for another time. But the first podcast, I think it was the first Jocko podcast I listened to, was one that Jordan Peterson was on, and it was about good and evil. Or that was the gist of it. And he always opens up with a book, and it's talks, he'll read a line.
Good evening, Echo.
Yeah. Good evening.
Savages, dude. Both those guys.
Yeah. And so he opens up with this story that's an excerpt from a book. I believe it's a Yazidi girl. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. Somebody that was persecuted in Iraq, and she's describing her story of being raped and tortured. And this is by what I guess would be the precursor to ISIS and stuff, the people that we were taking out over there.
Yeah.
And it's like, if nothing else, like people that are like, oh, you just went there for blood and oil or this and that, or whatever their weapons of mass destruction weren't there. We went in the name of freedom and American values and what's right and what's wrong. And people were dying and being tortured for just their beliefs. Well, and if we got to do a little bit in that, I'm okay with that.
And the thing is, it's like, whatever your opinions are of Saddam and overthrowing him, like the political reasoning behind it is neither here nor there. The fucking force that filled that vacuum, ISIS, they needed to be fucking dispatched.
Yep.
They were subhuman. Like, I would feel worse like hitting a bug with my car and watching it splatter on my windshield. That has a more of an emotional response than I would get fucking shooting one of those motherfuckers.
Right.
They were just fucking vile human beings, burning people alive. Did you ever watch those? And the weird thing is like that kicked off back when, like, everybody had an iPhone, everybody had iMovie, everybody could do production, and they made fucking like full on like produced videos. There was one video, I'll never forget it, where they were teaching children how to do CQB. Did you ever see that one?
No.
Bro, and they tied people up into the rooms. And it was like you were watching fucking a video game, like a first-person shooter video game, where these 10-year-old boys are fucking clearing rooms, and when they find someone, they kill them. And it's like, fucking...
Wow.
Can you imagine that shit, dude? And now, and that's one of the biggest problems, I think, in our country right now, is like, there's such a huge percentage of planet Earth that is still straight savage.
Oh, yeah.
And our fucking country is a fairy tale. And it's a good fairy tale.
Yeah.
I like the fact that my kids can walk to the park that's 3 blocks away and I'm not worried for their safety.
But that's not normal.
No, it's not
human
normal.
beings in the
It
world,
is
that's
not
not normal at all.
normal. And I think we need to be more grateful that we have created a society where we can fucking enjoy that kind of stuff. But so many people have never seen other parts of the world. Like I remember when I was in Ramadi, I did, it was 30 on or 90 on, 30 off. And I would rotate home. And I was there for like a year and a half, but I rotated home 3 or 4 times throughout that time. And one of my friends is like, where do you guys go out to eat there? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, do you get to like enjoy like the local Iraqi restaurants and like kind of see like what their food's all about and stuff? I said, just so you're clear, like if I went and sat down in a restaurant in Ramadi, there is a 100% chance that I would be killed. That's it. It's not like, like I could barely fucking get from point A to point B without getting my ass shot off.
Yep.
You ain't sitting in some fucking restaurant eating a meal.
The same kind of response.
But bro, that's like just so out of touch with what it's like in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And that's just the parts of the world that we got to experience.
Right. Like North Korea still exists.
Yeah. Half of Africa is still like that. Fucking entire villages getting fucking diced up with machetes and shit, and fucking all these girls and sex trades, and like the world is fucked, dude.
But most people don't know there's sex trade here, and I'm not talking QAnon, like although the idea of elites in Hollywood and elsewhere being involved in this is not that crazy to me. But I mean, we had a class at my work, and it was I think Jeff Teagues is his name. Former unit guy. He now works with...
No. Teagues was, I think he was in the Marine Corps.
Shoot, maybe I misspoke.
Right?
Either way, he's with Victor. He works with Victor Marks and the... can't remember the name of the ministries. I'm giving a poor shout out here, but they go all over the world and they're saving kids and
that's right,
stuff.
Dude. Yeah, I've heard about
they've
that.
been down at the border, and he gave this class on sex trafficking, basically as like, hey, as firefighters, you guys are going to be in the homes. This is what to look out for. Showed us all the symbols and symbolism and all this stuff. And like, they're like showing us cases, not like with anything sensitive that we can't, but showing us this is in your city.
Yeah,
in
dude.
your county. And just think about scale that up. It's not, it's most people don't know that.
Bro, one of my buddies who is, he was deployed with like a special unit, and they were in Syria right after like the rise of ISIS, right?
Getting it on.
Yeah, getting it on. And they said that these fucking ISIS fighters would just go through these villages and just fucking rape every single girl, right? Well, 9 months later, what do you have? A bunch of fucking babies that are fucking offspring of ISIS. So guess what no one in Iraq will do? Because they're like tainted. Nobody wants those babies. Get rid of them. Get rid of those babies. No. And so they have these massive fucking orphanages that are all full of children that are fucking the product of rape. And him and I talked about it. And he goes, dude, I think we need to like shed light on this. And he talked to Vice about doing a documentary. And I was going to adopt a young girl out of either Iraq or Syria.
Wow.
And he goes, bro, we could do the documentary and follow like this is your story. You have 3 daughters. You were part of the war. Now you're removed from the war, but actually have me go over there and adopt a young girl to bring attention to the situation. Because dude, there's fucking people all over the planet that want to be parents. And the adoption process is a fucking nightmare, right? Meanwhile, you have orphanages full of starving kids in Syria that nobody's doing anything about. And he tried to push it through State Department, and they would not fucking have it.
Wow.
Way too much red tape. Like,
that's
nope.
Too bad.
Yeah, that's your mission is a fucking no-go.
That stuff really tugs at my heartstrings. I love kids.
Yeah,
like,
bro. I mean, once you become a parent, like I didn't have kids during any of my deployments. My last deployment in 2009 is when I found out my wife was pregnant. And she's like, hey, we're done with this stuff. I said, I agree. Like, I understand that this is a young man's game and it's fucking time for me to move on. But dude, like, as you fucking mature as a man and you value human life differently, I was like, dude, that would be special for me to give back almost in a sense to like, there's so many people there that are hurting. That's like, I might not save the world, but I'd save the world for that little girl.
Right.
And so my wife was 100% on board. It's like, we got 3 daughters. What's one more? You know what I mean?
Also,
like,
would be just an example of what happens when you take an innocent baby that was the product of an evil act by an evil person.
Exactly.
And raised with 2 loving parents.
Love.
2 loving parents in America.
Yep.
I already know what the outcome would be.
I know, bro.
If that happened.
And that's why
almost without a doubt, just because this is America. If you do certain things happen. If you have 2 loving parents, graduate high school, don't have a kid out of wedlock, you get a job.
Yeah, dude.
Welcome to the middle class.
You can succeed, man. So yeah, that was that. Maybe that'd be the best outcome of this podcast. Maybe there's one person out there that hears this and is like, wait a minute, my fucking so-and-so works for this person that's in State Department. I need to know what's up with this, you know?
Right.
Because to this day,
the barriers.
If I were to have that presented to me right now, I would fucking fly to Erbil and I would get a fucking convoy. And that's what the plan was. And he was so connected up there from running all these operations. He's like, dude, we'll have a fucking local guard force and we'll fucking outfit us and get all of our gear and we'll fucking drive to these orphanages. And he's like, bro, he goes, this sounds weird, but tell me the age and sex of the kid you want. And it's done. You want a 3-year-old boy? Cool. You want a 7-year-old girl? Cool. He goes, because not only is it like the rape victims, a lot of kids were displaced from their parents being murdered.
Wow.
And so nobody hears anything about this. You know what I mean? Hey, there's giant camps full of starving kids. Is that what's on the news? No, it's, this guy wants to cut his dick off and become a woman and someone else is upset about it. It's like,
that Aunt Jemima's racist.
Yeah, that doesn't fucking matter. What matters is fucking people, but fuck, dude. That's a whole nother episode.
That is a whole nother episode. I love getting into that.
All right. Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming up. Are you heading back down south tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yep.
Fuck yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you. And we'll do it again sometime, man.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.